Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we are back with another live stream of Hearthstone. Today is Wednesday, May 23rd, and we are here streaming. Why does that sound so odd right now? Maybe my ears are a little clogged up. Seems like everything's good on the audio, so we'll ignore that for now. Cards have been nerfed. So, we talked about this, but they are now live. 1 mana Dark Pact now reads, destroy a friendly minion, restore 4 health to the hero. I believe before it said 8 health. I believe this was a 5 mana, 2 attack, 2 health minion. Now it's a 6 mana, if I was to guess, for Possessed Lackey. Could be that it was a 4 mana, could be that it was a 7 mana, or an 8 mana. I doubt though it's even 2 mana points away from what it is now, because I don't think Hearthstone, even Hearthstone, gets that so extremely wrong that they would have to bump something up 2 whole mana cost. Same would be true for this 5 mana spell. Call the Arms, recruit 3 minions that cost 2 or less. I bet this was a 4 mana if I was to guess. You could kind of assume that it's going up in cost because they wouldn't actually waste their time and create the controversy of making nerfs if to reduce the cost at the same time. They could do that later. In fact, they did do that later when they introduced the end of the last season year. This is now an 8 mana, 5 attack, 5 health. Your cards now cost 5 mana. You know, come to think of it, there is a strange amount of cards and abilities that make your cards cost 5 mana. And not really anything that changes it to any other costs. Other than a few cards that say your cards now cost 2 less mana. This is, I imagine, a 7 mana character that was a 6 mana, reveal spell from your deck, summon a random minion that's the same cost. And then this quest is getting changed to read, play 5 minions with the same name, reward Crystal Core. So, I'm not sure if Crystal Core is changing, because that seems like that was the same as it was, unless it was play 6 minions with the same name, or play 4 minions with the same name. But I don't believe it was 4 minions, because they definitely wanted to make it very difficult to play that number of minions, since you could only have 2 minions in your card collection with the same name. So you would have to play something like Vanish or Shadow Step or some other spell to return a character to your hand. For the most part, there's a totem that summons Murlocs and other cards that summon cards that would have potentially worked. So I'm not particularly bothered by those nerfs. I guess the question would boil down to, are any of those nerfs that we just saw like worth trying to turn into dust? And see, that kind of would only even fall specifically under the class of the Asian account, because it would be only golden cards really that you would want to do that with, or only extra cards that you'd want to do that with. And so you kind of need the whole list, wouldn't you, in front of you. Let's see. Naga the Sea Witch was one of them. Let's see if we have Naga. We have it in crafting. We don't have the caves below. Well, the cavern below. So yeah, even if I did have these cards and went and tried to change them, like there's no nerfed keyword, so you can't just search that way. So I would have to have the whole list in front of me. Maybe we'll mess with that later, but we need to get on with it. This is a slow way to start. I didn't look at my daily quest yesterday. I'm kind of getting really bad about not doing that. Not even taking the time to make sure I'm getting the most expensive daily quests, which is probably making daily quests a little bit easier. Random legends and then are cloned 4 times. Alright, so we just want to, with this Tavern Ball, no, we need to play either Shaman or Priest if we get a selection. Let's hop in here. Start with Priest. Play those Priest cards. I think we're good to go. I did manage to play a small amount of Lego Star Wars The Force Awakens, but not very much at all. And then I spent a lot more time playing with actual Lego, and this game is teaching me very much that I am just done. I am so done with the Lego games. I was done last time I was done with them. I was done the time before I was done with them, but now it's just like, no. And I know I'll probably get back to it eventually. The Lego's teasing that Lego Villains is gonna come out as the next game, because I just assume they cannot do a Lego Batman 4. They couldn't really even do a Lego Batman 3, to be honest. Next legendary mini plays, and all copies cost 3. So if I play this next turn, I can play this. But at the moment I need to just end the turn. And I guess I could say that I was doing something kind of emergency and important while playing with the Lego, taking care of a sick person, but for the most part I was just being around in case I was needed, which in all honesty is about all you can do for most sick people. Alright. Oops, I did not think that through. Alright. One copy of a random minion in your deck.
I wonder.
Or summon an awesome invention.
By the light.
Let's go ahead and kill one of these guys and end the turn. Gamma Sutra has an article, and frankly it's being reported by everybody. Sony, the PlayStation 4 is entering its final phase of its life cycle. For what they mean final phase, though, they are talking the last 3 years, which still gives you quite a lot of time to for them to work on the PlayStation 5, which almost certainly the PlayStation 5 will be the next big thing. Let's see. Ooh, I'm gonna play this. Do this, so I can do
That
this.
belongs in a museum.
Oops, I didn't realize I was gonna be the one drawing cards.
Thank you. By the light.
I won't stand.
There really isn't too much to say with the PlayStation 4 being near the end of its life cycle. We kind of know what PlayStation 5 is going to do. It's not amazingly surprising or confusing as far as what's going to happen there. It's going to be unless Sony does something crazy, it's going to just be a major increment as far as the quality of what the PlayStation 4 is. Stronger video graphics, more RAM, more abilities. Probably slightly better abilities as far as controlling VR, because they are succeeding moderately well with PlayStation VR. The Sony PlayStation 5 will probably be designed in this concept of working sort of with a portable PlayStation, but the PlayStation 5 is almost certainly not going to be a Switch-like device. That would be, whether they call that the Vita 2 or whether they call it something different, they're definitely there definitely is going to be a different type of device that the PlayStation Sony would come out with to be a portable device. And I don't think that's a terrible idea. The craziest thing that could happen is if Microsoft came out with something like the Switch, which wouldn't be totally insane. It would just be called like the Xbox Surface or something along that line.
Soldiers of the cold dark, obey the call.
Let's hit this
By the light.
and this.
Pray for
In the turn.
That belongs in a museum. That belongs in a museum.
This is a stupidly easy tavern brawl, but it's not helping me play any priest cards. You know, I guess ultimately, if there was an Xbox One Surface device, and there was a deal 4 damage.
You win this time.
I hit all of these cards. Yeah, if there's a Sony Vita 2 and an Xbox One Surface device, both competing at a higher end to make the Switch have to compete even more, that would be amazing. And it might even force Nintendo into making a slightly better home console Switch device too. 4 of those cards, by the way, were extra on my Asian account. Getting classic pack card packs, even for this account, is starting to get to be a little pointless. Well, now for these daily quests, all we need to do is play shaman cards and priest cards, which means we can kind of just play the game. We're at rank 20, so it's not gonna kill me to try and get some ranks up to rank 21, but I doubt it's gonna happen too much. Let's move on to the next story. That was Eurogamer has an article, Bungie, Naughty Dog, Sony, Santa Monica, and Blizzard talk about crunch. This is one of those articles that might be interested if you're interested in the gaming development world, but frankly, until we see some proof of actual action, I think crunch may just be a topic that's getting covered by the news and talked about by the news and not actually getting dealt with. And inherently, we may get down to the point where half of the offices that make video games around the world are anti-crunch and don't allow it, but half of the offices do. I heard a report of just how small indie single developers, like people who are their own bosses, are putting themselves into crunch, and that makes no sense at all. For as much as I kind of rag on the developer of Yandere Simulator for the fact that I'm almost 100% certain he's never actually going to get that game finished and released, at the very least, I think he's taking a slightly closer to reasonable time scale when he develops things and manages his time. It doesn't feel like he's killing himself, although he may be crunching and killing himself to develop it, and he may just be completely incapable of finishing the work he's doing for other reasons. So he may not be a good example. It's hard to tell of any good examples or bad examples because all of this happens in the background, and that's what it always boils down to, is crunch could happen in the background like any other kind of workplace abuse can happen in the background, and very few people are going to bring it to light. The Supreme Court in the United States made a pretty bad decision, I hear, disallowing for class action suits against arbitration clauses. So as I understand it, if you are being held to an arbitration clause and you and 50 of your other employees are all getting underpaid, or they're violating some other kind of workplace law, like overworking you, not paying you overtime, things like that, you and those 50 employees, according to the Supreme Court, can't make a class action suit that trumps the arbitration clauses. And arbitration clauses in specific have gotten stronger and more frequently used in the United States as a way of making it very difficult for an employee to be treated correctly. To the point where, like, if I was to ever work for another company, I'm gonna look at any kind of like contract and potentially say, no, I'm not gonna sign this arbitration clause. I refuse. So you either rewrite it, and I'm gonna actually negotiate and say I'm not gonna agree to this, and if you don't want to employ me because of that, fine, I'll walk. And see how desperate people are to actually hire me at that point. Many would call that self-sabotage, but in the end, there's two ways to self-sabotage. One is in the short run by standing up for your rights, and then the other is in the long run by not standing up for your rights and letting people trample all over you. And most people, I would say, self-sabotage by not standing up for their rights. Or even when it's not a right, just standing up for your own value and the demanding to be treated the way you expect to be treated. Moving on, Gamatsu, sorry. I'm gonna have to learn how to read today, apparently. Draw the lowest cost minion from your deck. Let's play this. Play the draw card. Next battle cry triggers twice. Well, at the very least, I'll just play this. Bloodstained Curse of the Moon has been delayed to May 31 for the 3DS in Europe, and it's still June 6th for Xbox One worldwide. No, it's been delayed to June 6th for Xbox One worldwide. All other versions are still planned for the May 24 release. This is really weird because Bloodstained Curse of the Moon, I believe, is the very recently announced spin-off 2D version of the of Bloodstained, which is more of a well, no, they're both 2D versions. It's just that the Moonlight Curse of the Moon is an 8-bit NES, Super NES looking animation, and the other Bloodstained, the big game, is a modern 2.5D type animation where it looks better.
Let's dance.
Both of these in the turn. So it's really crazy to announce something and then immediately delay it, particularly since there was no hype for that game whatsoever. But whatever. Yesterday was the 20-year anniversary for Unreal Gold. Yesterday, at least, it was for free on Steam and Good Old Games. So if you want to get Unreal Gold, I grabbed it. I mean, in general, unless you're trying to keep your Steam library particularly empty, I would say grab it. It's also about one of these games that has no real reason to ever be played. Like, it's a hard-pressed, very old-looking game. Looks like maybe just a few months past the development of GoldenEye 64. Excuse me, sorry, I didn't have time to mute the mic there. May have to cough some more, so let me think about that and see if I'm gonna need to mute. I was eating peanut M&Ms and I think I may have a peanut stuck in my throat. Although, how did I do all that talking up until this point if that was the case? Like, this guy just needs to be played because he's never gonna not be playable. The Unreal Tournament 2004 Editor's Choice Edition is also on sale. But I think the Epic certainly knows the value of their really, really old games. And that's the way kind of anything that's an idea and after the first development does not cost anything extra to develop should be. Like, it makes sense that for a while somebody who makes a video game should get paid, but at a certain point it should just go into the public domain, and this isn't a public domain issue, but 20 years down the line, I doubt too many people that even worked on this game still work at Epic. So if anybody's making any profit on Unreal Gold, it's simply just corporate people. people who really had nothing to do with the creative activity. People who literally, when I start talking about management, literally don't do anything worth any money. Not in my opinion.
Is there trouble?
Anyways, let's move on. Your Game has an article, the notorious 80s trading card series Garbage Pail Kids is being turned into a game, coming to mobile soon. So, I don't know if Garbage Pail Kids really is best described as a trading card. Because I guess it is. I guess that's what trading cards used to be. Is you would open up packs, you'd get different versions of things, and then you would, if you had duplicates or didn't like one of the cards, you'd trade it with your friends. I guess it makes a little bit more sense than calling them collectible cards, because then that just gets too close to collectible card games. You can take a very obvious marketing term was introduced when they started calling them collectible cards. What to say really about the Garbage Pail Kids? There's a terrible movie about it. It was always a kind of surreal, macabre collection of characters. One would hope that through the process of this being a mobile game, they would make new cards, assuming that they haven't always been making new cards. The quote here is, "It will be a card collecting role-playing game that will see players virtually battling with cards from the original 1980s game." So it might be like a Pokemon RPG type thing where you collect them all and use them to battle, or it might be just this ever-going card collecting game. Like it could have puzzle elements, like Tower of Saviors was one I played, where you got cards and you fought with characters that were represented by cards, but the cards really didn't play a big role as much as the puzzle matching element did.
Hello.
I do have to say though that Garbage Pail Kids is probably not a great influence on kids or good for them, and in all honesty, I think every generation should have their own separate form of garbage entertainment instead of falling back to a reminiscent or feeling that their parents might have. Like, really, this Garbage Pail Kids are for 80s kids. There should have been something in the 90s for 90s kids, which would probably have been Pokemon cards, Yu-Gi-Oh! There should have been something for 2000 kids, and there shouldn't really be a resurgence. We should move forward and perhaps get even slightly better on our quality of even the garbage entertainment, which Garbage Pail Kids were definitely some garbage entertainment. They were very expensive packs for no reason. It was a counter baseball cards. So if your kid was into baseball, they wouldn't have been into Garbage Pail Kids. If they were into Garbage Pail Kids, they probably weren't into baseball. And
amazing.
It really is. It seems like it is the product of a very specific deranged artist, and I say deranged in the nicest way possible, as most artists are slightly deranged. And it's almost the equivalent if they told me a Fritz the Cat, not Fritz the Cat, well, maybe even first the cat. If they told me that there was going to be a new Betty Boop cartoon or game, or a new Steamboat Willie cartoon, even an old Popeye, a new Popeye cartoon, it just seems like it's already come and gone. The time for those type of things. It's time to move forward, not back. Moving on, PC Gamer has an article. Good Old Games adds a hot selection of visual novels, and Sunrider Mask of Arcadis is free. So, the quote subtitle is, Manga Gamer said Steam is growingly unreliable for small and independent developers, and so Manga Gamer in particular has decided to partner with Good Old Games. Now it's important to remember, Good Old Games specifically hand selects and approves their games. They are very much in the curation business, a lot more than Steam is, for sure. So when Good Old Games is directly partnering with Manga Gamer, and they know the product that they're selling, which arguably Valve did too, because it's not like Manga Gamer is a small company that nobody's ever heard of. But this is as much of a thumbs up and sign of approval from Good Old Games as you possibly could get it. Now, the bigger question that I didn't get here is, will they be censored versions like the Steam versions, or will they be full uncensored, no patch needed type releases? The quote here is, in the long run, we hope to transition our full Steam catalog to Good Old Games, and we hope developers will consider reaching out to them too. We want fans everywhere to always have a means to enjoy these. Now, transitioning is an interesting phrase, because that indicates to me that they are leaving Steam voluntarily, and that doesn't really solve anything for the Steam problem. If Steam gets what it wants by simply threatening to kick somebody off, and then that just spooks people enough that they leave voluntarily. Like that's not a solution. So I'd hate to see Manga Gamer's games leave Steam, but maybe that's what has to happen in the short term. Let's see. So remember, Sunrider Mask of Arcadis is free, and the rest of the games are on sale until May 29th. The games are Sunrider Liberation Day, Sunrider Academy, Fault Milestone 1, Fault Milestone 2, Side Above. All of these seem to be 66% off, or one is 50% off. So you're not getting huge discounts, but you're not getting bad discounts either.
I am one with the candle.
Didn't quite play that. Eden Asterix is $7, and then Higurashi When They Cry 2 Chapter 1 through 5 are each on sale, and Higurashi When They Cry is probably their most recognizable visual novel, selling for between $4.50 and $6 with 25% off on each chapter. So I recognize Higurashi, I recognize Eden, I recognize Fault. Sunrider I don't recognize. So those are some major visual novels that get recommended by Steam quite a lot. They are, I assume, highly rated and highly popular. And so hopefully this will spook Steam enough that they will rethink what they're doing. But arguably Steam already kind of has rethought what they're doing, so there's not too much more you can do.
I don't need any of you. Job's done.
We'll just have to wait and see. I guess is all we can do. I would also want to say that it's better. The good old games stepped up, and in fact I specifically said last stream, it's like I'm surprised good old games didn't step up as just an advertisement pitch and say, we've got these games, we'll do them without DRM, our service is better. Good old games is the #2 biggest platform for selling PC games, so them stepping up is helpful. A lot more than, say, Nutaku, where Nutaku is a Steam for sex games only, to the point where they may not even allow visual novels that don't have sex in them. Like, that's not ideally how that works. Like, I don't think a platform only for sex games serves the vast majority of people, because the vast majority of people aren't such perverts, which again is a phrase I love to say lovingly. But most people aren't so obsessed with sex games that they buy only sex games. Like The Witcher 3 is also a great example of that, where The Witcher 3 does have sex scenes in it. If you can't get that on Nutaku, which I bet you can, then you're still split between two different storefronts. And that's inherently what I don't want. Like, I don't want it in real life either. I don't want to have to go to one grocery store to get half my groceries and another grocery store to get the other half. We've got a game curated pretty well today, in the past couple days, so we don't have a ton of games on Steam, and hopefully they're going to be slightly more relevant and more important. We have a game called Arlo the Rabbit. It looks like a black and white Game Boy game with some animation that is a little suspect even for a tiny black and white Game Boy aesthetic. It's a bunny rabbit platformer. I wonder if you made a bad game and it didn't sell because the graphics were bad, if you placed a filter over it to make it look like a Game Boy game, would that potentially sell more? I could see people doing that, honestly, just re-releasing something in a different format. A suspicious number of 5 positive reviews for $2.99, and this is the only game from this developer, and there's no discounts on it. See, I just don't get the point of going black and white. Like, if you're gonna make a platformer, make a platformer, put it in color. There's just some levels of quality that you can't go backwards on for nostalgia. And here is the trailer is even showing a Game Boy Color, but the game is black and white. Arguably, it may not even be limiting itself to the 4 palette grayscale that Game Boys had, because there was a full black, full white, light gray, and a dark gray. Cannot recommend Arlo the Rabbit, but in fairness, I think to me it did look like it was an actual effort. Next game we have is called White Veil Defender, and it's a tower defense game. Now that I look at it, I kept looking at this and going, this is a weird looking thing, but now I get it. Took me a while. $7.99 for a tower defense game with no reviews. No surprise there.
I don't need
we're starting to see a release of more tower defense games. It's been a couple of months, I guess. This developer's made nothing else, by the way. I don't know why people are going in cycles here, but it seems like they definitely are creating games that we already know have been fully saturated on the Steam marketplace. Gematsu has an article. Bandai Namco trademarks Greed Adventure in Japan. Greed Adventure might be something as simple as a rename for Penny Pinching Princess, but it might be a totally new game too. The trademark doesn't really say anything. It's just white Japanese letters that I assume say Greed Adventure below with white English letters that say Greed Adventure.
Job's done.
Let's keep going. We have a game called Math Speed Challenge on Steam. It looks like garbage. It's hard to even the second think about or evaluate educational games on Steam. They just kind of don't work. Not the way I'd like them to work, at least. But part of the problem certainly is that people who make educational like games, they often try to make them educational so they'll sell, while still putting in the minimal amount of effort that so many developers seem to have. This developer has made only 2 games that have ever even gotten reviewed enough to be reviewed, and they have mixed reviews. One of their games is free to play. They also have made a game called Math Problems Challenge that came out May 23rd, the exact same day as Math Speed Challenge came out, so they're flooding the market of Steam. Inherently, it's so ridiculous for any developer, any of them. Like, even the biggest of the biggest developers do not need the authority to release the same multiple games on the same day. Steam Direct people should be limited to 1 game per month, and as Valve gets more confidence, for people like EA or Ubisoft that might be a publisher that would release games, maybe 2 games a week at most. Like, let's be realistic here. And then anytime any company like Ubisoft or EA says, well, we've got this whole back catalog of games we would like to put on Steam, but we want to do it all at the same time as a big push, that should just be like, okay, let's see what you're doing, we'll pre-approve that. But by default, just in the programming, say you're limited, you're capped. There has to be a limit already, because we have yet to see instances where somebody puts hundreds or thousands of Steam games on the same day, although we have seen some instances close to that. But they need to definitely turn that down. Excuse me, I might be getting sick too. PC Gamer's coverage of the Hearthstone laser rounds of nerfs doesn't even list all the nerfs, so that's a useless article. I am not getting anywhere with this. But I guess at the end of the day, all I need to do is play the game, play the cards.
You require my assistance?
Gematsu has an article, Kimco, and I'm not sure I've heard of this company, KMCO, announces a visual novel Saiyaku, S-A-I-A-K-U, Naru, Saiyaku, Ningen ni Sasuga for PS4.
What to do?
Can I translate what that just said in any form or fashion?
How long can this go on? How long can this go on?
Let's see, what is this visual novel about, though? Like, visual novels keep on happening. They certainly are never gonna stop.
Aha!
Protagonist, the player, is named Hyoma. He is unable to see any living thing outside of Kuro, the boy who cannot see other people, and the girl who cannot be seen by others start living in support of each other, but one day a disaster struck and the two in their peaceful daily lives collapsed. A disaster occurs when Hayama is as its center and looms before him as an inescapable fate. Continue the fighting against it, the boy will eventually have to make a decision. So it seems like a star-crossed lovers type story with a magical twist to it. So, not a lot to say in that announcement. It could be that this is based on a manga, it could be that it's based on a light novel. It's just not a lot to say. Similarly, as it seems, there's not, I think, going to be a lot of news today, and so we're going to have a potentially more on-track stream today. Furthermore, it doesn't really kill me to skip this for now and move over to the European account, and so that's what I'm going to do. That may mean that we'll have, it will mean, if I don't come back and do this daily quest, that we'll have 3 things we do on Friday, and we all know nobody ever shows up on Friday, but nobody showed up on the chat today either, so I don't believe I got notifications today either. Surprise, surprise, YouTube still doesn't freaking know what it's doing. Maybe I should do an experiment where I stop the clickbait titles and see if maybe that is stopping the announcements, but in all seriousness, I don't think that's the case, because it's just YouTube themselves has said that they're not notifying people, and they just admitted it at this point. Anyways, that's gonna be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me even more, gift me a game or gift me a gift card on Steam. Remember, the summer sale is approaching. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.
You're back. Come tell us a story or two.
Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back with another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Wednesday, May 23rd, and we are on the European account. Let's see, I need to win 3 games with Druid or Rogue and win 3 games with Shaman and Warlock. And that is going to be a little bit of a struggle. It's kind of good now looking at this that I decided to skip over to the European account before I did all the daily quests on the Asian account. So start with Druid or Rogue and we'll see what we can do otherwise. Druid, in here we go. Now, unless my Twitter account has a ton of news that leaks out between when I started streaming and when I last looked, I really don't have a ton of news to talk about. For instance, Kimetsu has the Etrian Odyssey X details for Floyd, Enrica, Arten, Linde, and 8 new enemy characters and more. This is a standard Japanese press release of a game where all it's showing is a few more pictures of characters and some descriptions and the name of the character just to build up the hype train. You really have to applaud the Japanese video game media for their ability to take the smallest of details, the smallest of press releases that most Western people would not even instead of waiting until you have actually something substantive to say about the game, they just put out a new press release. And I guess it kind of works. And inherently, I guess it's a better system than them making up stories or causing controversies, which Western video game media and Western media and media in general has problems with.
Time runs out on me.
I would much prefer PC Gamer in particular to write an article talking about a single screenshot than I would prefer them to write a whole week's worth of articles built around the concept of how every esports player is horrible. Toxic. PC Gamer actually went for about a month, it felt like, talking about toxicity in video games. Moving on though, we have a game called Judge Dredd 95, and it is from a company called Probe Software, and it's being published by a publisher called Throwback Entertainment and Majesco Entertainment. And Majesco Entertainment is a proper publisher of the Blood Rain series, and we've heard about Majesco. So for a brief second there, it felt like this was a Judge Dredd game from that was from probably 1995, but managed to, let's see what I want to do here. Just keep on attacking. What does this one do?
Job's done.
So what is this from? It's a beat 'em up platformer. It's Judge Dredd. It looks like the Judge Dredd from the Sylvester Stallone movie, not the Dredd movie. Which it'd be nice if they made another sequel. You're gonna apprehend Judge Rico and do final battle with the Dark Judges on Dead World. The thing I want to see here is that is what was this game originally on? I am suspecting a Sega Genesis. So, like, this is a definite nostalgia play. It's a re-release of an old game. Since I'm ahead, I guess I should just do this. Try and win. And then here's another monkey wrench. It has 12 levels up to 30 missions with super bosses at each turn. Lots of secrets and bonuses, so not a super long game. The one review says not recommended. The company that reissued this game on Steam took work from the Zoom platform. Jordan Freeman Group, their logo is in the trailer, without paying them, and went ahead and released this game on Steam anyways, and still is not paying them. 100% not cool. By purchasing this game, you're supporting a company that's ripping people off. So somebody's got a beef there, probably somebody who worked or works for a Zoom platform.
What to do?
Inherently, I think in these situations you can guess by default the truth of the matter is Majesco licensed this game and owns Judge Dredd 95, and they hired Probe Software to take the software that they had and push it out. It may very well be that this, let's see, this trailer, Jordan Freeman Group, which is in the trailer, was hired to make the game. But that doesn't mean inherently that they are entitled to royalties forever in a contract work.
This jungle hides many secrets.
Now, it may not be the kindest thing in the world, or even a fair thing. As somebody who is super about like being nice to employees, at a certain point, the contracts, assuming nothing illegal is happening here, which I seriously doubt something is illegal is happening here, and I'm not going to assume that something is illegal is happening just because of one negative review. I imagine Majesco contracted with this Jordan Freeman Group, told them in that contract straight up how it was going to work, and that they were going to get paid directly for their effort. This one attacks and kills a minion. Summon 2 Murlocs from your deck. I don't even know if I have 2 Murlocs. So, all in all, Judge Dredd 95 is going to get wishlisted on my list. It's not really a game I'd want to cover too much, but there is already a really old Judge Dredd game I'd like to cover, so it would actually work pretty well if I was going to do that, to do at least a small spotlight of it. I don't know what the legality is to this. This, of course, came out June 2nd, 1995, so it is a 1995 game. I guess the best thing you can do is keep your ears to the ground and see if there really is any kind of controversy here. It would be nice, but this did just come out. It was just released today, or re-released. It'd be nice if the developer came back and said, here's the explanation. The only other thing I guess I could do is see. I could click view discussions. And in the Steam at first, that's not even zoomed in. So meanwhile, while I'm doing that, we need to play more Druid and Rogue victories. Let's disenchant all 5 of those cards we just got. And then new. I bet all these cards are actually from some glitch. Like eye for an eye. Yeah, these are cards that I long since had. I'm pretty sure. Let's see if we have Naga. Let's see which. No, I don't. Still kind of trying to see the recently nerfed cards. To see if maybe I could turn some of them to dust, but it really wouldn't even be too smart of a move. So let's just keep on playing. How are we on ranked play? We're at rank 20, so... Paladin, I don't believe was one of the ones I needed to play. Druid, Rogue, Shaman, Warlock. Just kind of the 4 least preferred ones to have. So the first discussion for Judge Dredd 95 is, what version is this? To the publisher who brought this game, can you please tell me confirm which release? I suspect it's either the DOS or Windows 95 version, but it could also be the Super NES. And the response, yes, this is the DOS version of the game. Thank you. DOS version versus Windows 95 versions often are exactly the same. So, take that also for whatever it's worth. That was my question certainly too, is was this a Super NES game or a let's see. Next discussion is any chance of Steam achievements. I own the original and had a lot of fun with it. And the response is probably not, from another commenter from 5 hours ago, since it's running old code and probably just running on something like DOSBox, which I wouldn't be surprised if it is just running something like DOSBox, but even that. The developer actually said, unfortunately we are not able to do Steam achievements at this time for this title, actually is what it said. And it was the developer that says it was the DOS version, so this really is just a instance. What was this thing? I lost my... Man, I've gotten bad about that. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this developer is just making sure it runs pretty well on DOSBox and then putting it out. I'm pretty sure DOSBox can be used for commercial use because it gets used a lot on Steam. It'd be kind of funny if it turned out that actually every single game that uses DOSBox is not allowed and has never been allowed. Just gonna go and play this.
TC-130 mental dislocator.
Hit this, I guess. And then return. And then 4 hours ago there was a a discussion that says crickets, hello, and then somebody replied, well, it's not like this is something new or exciting. The game's a re-release of a mediocre shooter that's been out since the 90s. I wonder what version this is. And so like that actually was the same person that posted what version it was. And so since the discussion board only has like 4 hours of discussion on it, it's not, again, not surprising there's nothing there. And then more games like this, Steam's notoriously bad recommendations says play Dota 2 or Counter-Strike or Kingdom Come Deliverance or Conan Exiles or Warframe or Wizard of Legend or PUBG or The Forest or Final Fantasy 14 or Rocket League. Like, none of these games are anywhere close to that, which tells me nobody has seen Judge Dredd. Which inherently also tells me that the person complaining about them stealing your work is probably somebody who knew this was coming out earlier and took it upon themselves to complain preemptively. Let's see this.
Time waits for no one.
Who are you?
For the wild.
Moving on, though, that was really a long journey for covering just an old game. A game called Azumate Kawaden for a PS4 launches June 15th in Japan. That's AZUMATEI space KWAIDAN. An indie-made 3D action adventure game. Let's watch the trailer and see what it is. More and more we're seeing more independent Japanese developers, which is not something that the previous generation of people who worked in Japan would have ever thought about. Like, it was so counter the way things were set up for the previous generation that you wouldn't work for somebody else and instead work for yourself. So this is a very nice new thing we're seeing. As for this game, it's a 3D kind of walk around and point and click adventure with a fighting mechanic. You are finding things in places, but every now and then you're getting stopped by ghosts and you're having to kill them too with your staff. Looks like there might even be a big boss fight here. Yeah, this definitely looks like a big boss fight. The graphics definitely don't look great. This looks like even at a cell phone level, a poor quality amount of level of graphics. It feels very much like a Silent Hill 1 type level of graphics and type game. Alone in the Dark is a good reference to make to the original Alone in the Dark game. Not 100% sure if the main character has a staff or a sword. It's coming for the PS4. That's the weirdest part, is that this must be a digital download for the PS4, because there's no way that this will come about as a disc release. It's just not high enough quality. Azumate Kawaden might be this fictional castle in Japan that I recently heard a story about, where people a rumor was made about a specific castle, and that existed in Japan, and as far as anybody can tell, it actually never existed, but the rumor kept growing and growing, and people eventually started claiming they actually had seen the castle, or they actually know what a castle is, being a haunted castle. Same thing that we'd have in the West, where there's many rumored haunted houses in the United States, and I'm sure around the world. Yeah, it does say it's coming out June 15th via the store for 3,240 yen, which is about $350. If my numbers are right, so even the developers right on the correct line about the value of that, and that is about the right price for a game that looks like this. And for that price, I might be willing to check it out when it comes to PC sometime in 2018. Boy, that would be a long time. Moving on, Gamasutra has an article. The UK government takes aim at online games in an internet safety strategy response. The United Kingdom is looking to implement a number of new laws that aim to ensure that, in the words of Digital Secretary Matt Hancock, the UK is the safest place in the world to be online. Video games were listed among the many online spaces being scrutinized by the United Kingdom's government ahead of new laws that would aim to make the internet and social media safer for UK citizens. Of course, whenever they say safer, what they really mean is they want to control the flow of information to the point where they can create a even larger nanny state than they already have. Let's see. And give my minions +1, I guess.
For the wild.
Let's end the turn. The government has since released a response to an early investigation green paper outlining the areas online games and other online spaces succeed and or need improvement in regards to online safety. This discussion about online video games starts on page 49 of a 75-page PDF released this week, and notes that the industry has made strides for online safety on its own. The UK trade body for the game industry, UKIE, outlined many of those individual decisions, like increased attention from major game industry console manufacturers on parental controls, ongoing industry-led discussions on how to best handle unsavory behavior in the online games, and commitments to increasing awareness of ratings classification material like the UK's PEGI game rating system. Okay, let's do this.
Beetleberries, my favorite.
Time waits for no one. For the wild.
The government's response letter explains that the governing body plans to work with UKIE and the UK Council for Child Internet Safety to tackle ongoing issues. I hate how it's always contrived that kids are even the major audience that are playing video games, when the clear and scientifically proven every single time is that the average video game player is about 22 years old, and not children. And when all these rating systems, the vast majority of every game is rated M, which would be not children again. But I digress. To tackle ongoing issues such as sexism and build our understanding in relation to how this can be most effectively tackled, examining emerging issues related to augmented reality and other new types of gaming, and considering the evidence relating on how interactive content can support well-being and resilience. So this is just straight up pro-censorship. I mean, it comes in a nice little package. It sounds alright in the face of it, but when you start to deal with these people and get to know them, and I am talking these people in the generalist terms as somebody who doesn't know anybody who wrote this response or anything, but I can so easily and so instantly call them these people because I've seen them so often, and it's always the moral panic groups, particularly in the UK. The UK is desperate, completely desperate to control its citizens and create a nanny state. And its US citizens, frankly, all of the people in the UK that would have risen up against oppression did it in the United States 200 plus years ago. And the only people left in the UK are kind of wimps in very broad terms as far as their government. That's probably why Brexit happened, if I'm going to digress, but I'm digressing far too much at that point. Because I'm certainly going to start mixing messages greatly if I'm not careful.
For the wild.
When they mention sexism, what they mean in general is a very wide definition of sexism, and frankly the only sexism that they could try and control is the sexism that would be added by the players, and you can do some of that but not too much. After a certain point, there's just nothing more you can do, and half of the players, half of what other people call sexism, most players call this is just trash talk, banter, and they will die on that hill. Much more than me, because I don't play first-person shooters or multiplayer games. But from what I've seen, which I was rather surprised by, people that play multiplayers want to be able to trash talk and banter and bait the opponent, just in the same way that basketball players, professional basketball players do that, professional football players, and professional soccer players, anybody who does a profession in any kind of sports that has any level of aggression, hockey players most certainly, all engage in banter in at the very least a joking reason. Or a joking way, if not just if not directly mean-spirited ways. And a lot of people who do taunt and banter don't mean it in a mean-spirited way. Also, when they talk about sexism, they're talking about Anita Sarkeesian's perspective on the world, where she's literally said everything is sexism, everything is patriarchy, and it's from people, SJWs, we'll try not to say that phrase too much today, whose only perspective in the world is that that there is always something to complain about, and even when people try to meet them halfway or try to take steps to resolve their issues, they are never happy, they never reward any effort, and it is pointless to try to satisfy audiences like Anita Sarkeesian, because one, she wasn't an audience as far as video games. She wasn't playing video games at all before she got kickstarted and basically tricked people out of their money to develop something completely different than what she was going to. She described it as before. So that is definitely a red flag right there. But even when you take the sexism mention out, it's all built around this assumption that children are not safe playing games, even that were designed for children. And maybe that's slightly true in microtransactions, but that's not even mentioned here. And the PEGI system, I believe, has factors to say no microtransactions in early learning or E for Everyone style games. I believe it has that, I could be wrong. Maybe they're not safe because they're saying because people are collecting data on them, but like the new DK, the new protection things from the European Union kind of fixes that, or at least goes a very far way, a rather extreme way to protecting everybody's data. So there's kind of nothing to complain about on that front either. So
Time waits for no one.
So in a similar way, the UK is looking for something to complain about. This is, to me, feels like it is an investigation that will not ever be released unless it finds that there is reason for the government, the UK government, to be more draconian. And that's all the UK government ever wants to do, particularly in these aspects. And has it really helped the UK government to be so draconian? Not really. The UK in the past couple of years has had several major terrorist attacks, even though almost every single street is covered by multiple cameras. That draconian approach, that loss of privacy, that nanny state has not done anything whatsoever. There is just a certain level of unsafety that everyone in the world has to accept, because that's just life. And you cannot legislate away that level of unsafety. You cannot protect against it. Every time you breathe in, you might get a cold or a germ or a virus or bacteria that kills you. That doesn't mean you can stop breathing. And I think that's probably the best place to end that argument. Let's see, we already talked about Manga Gamer moving over to Good Old Games. Although I'm still not sure that they are actually going to remove their games on Steam. I think they're just kind of covering their bases. I guess inherently, though, the one thing I didn't say to do would have been, since Manga Gamer is going over to Good Old Games and we want to support visual novels, go over there and get Sunrider and Mark of Arcadis for free on Good Old Games, and maybe consider purchasing some of Manga Gamer's games on Good Old Games. That way they can get the support. In the same way that Mutiny was 99 cents on Steam, and so you could get the main game and the 2 DLC alternate stories, and even the soundtrack for less than $5. So in the same way that I bought that to support that company, I think similar things should happen here. Let's see. Here's a question. It's been a real long time since I've been on Good Old Gamer. So, yes, Sunrider Mask of Arcadius is free. Add to cart. Check out now. Log in. And two-step authentication. Do I still have the two-step authentication for her Good Old Games? Oh, it's actually a two-step authentication in my email. Alright, well then that won't arrive anytime soon. Let me just check my spam. Hey, look here, I have Square Enix marked as spam. Okay, so yes, I cannot actually log in to Good Old Games right now. I'll have to do that later. Let's see. Do this. And attack.
I'm waiting for no one.
Moving on. TechRaptor has an article. Nexus Mod tries to solve paid mods, creates a 100k pool to pay modders. Today, a new reward system was announced by the Nexus Mod site owner called Dark One, where mod creators can earn money and rewards for their efforts. The system uses donation points as the backbone, which the final total value represents the amount of money donated by Nexus mods to the donation pool. The donation points are earned each month, with the amount earned based on how many unique downloads your mod has received for that month. So this is kind of a direct equivalent to if you were how many unique page views is your mod bringing in to our website. Now, does Nexus Mods have ads on their website? Or it probably does. In fact, I'm pretty sure it does. So they're giving a small percentage back of the ad revenue that they're getting from ads, I suspect. Right now, 1,000 donation points is equal to $1, and though the mod authors will be given an option besides cashing these for direct monetary rewards, they'll be given other options. While the intent is to have more varied rewards added, currently they just include premium membership and 3 charities in addition to a direct pay out via PayPal. So inherently there's a flaw with this system that they didn't think of. PayPal is getting pressured and specifically does not like for pornographic material sales to happen via them. Half of Nexus mods, if not the majority of Nexus mods, are nude skins for games. And I guess maybe Nexus Mods has a premium membership service that does something. Maybe it makes downloads faster. Before any payouts happen at this stage, there will be a 3-month delay first, so any kinks can be buffed out, while as many mod authors as possible can already prepare by opting in. There is also a problem with people stealing mods, and frankly how much of these mods are inherently unique and original content in the first place, because let's face it, most of them are just modifications, arguably not fair use of modifications of existing copyrighted content. Money and mods have been a sore subject since paid mods debacle happened in 2015. At the very least, this system seems like it is not particularly trying to get the end user to pay for mods. It's just trying to compete against potentially people not making mods in the future on Nexus mods and instead making mods on other paid mod services. So it's trying to stem a potential tide in the future of greedy mod makers. This boils down to an argument I make every now and then about how pointless it is for people to make mods, and they should just make original content. For as much as I rag on MS Paint looking games and very low effort games on Steam, I'd much prefer somebody make a very low effort game on Steam than make a mod and try to make money that way. At the very least, you're trying to make original content when you make your own game. Like, even if you are going to make some kind of derivative art based on a pre-existing game, you would still be better off making your own game and spoofing that art than you would just making a slight mod. Mods, to me, also very much in the danger zone of low effort developments. Just not done with any desire or care to do a good job.
For the wild.
Moving on, Gamasutra has an article. EA acquires Gamefly's cloud gaming service. So, EA announced that the acquisition of the cloud gaming technology assets and personnel of Gamefly today. This will likely open up more possibilities for the company to expand its reach of games through streaming to more players and devices. The acquisition makes sense considering Gamefly launched game streaming services back in 2015 through the Amazon's Fire TV streaming box, which featured a console-like controller with gameplay. The service consisted of packages of games organized by genre and offered unlimited access to 7 titles for a monthly fee. I thought Gamefly also had a kind of a tie-in with GameStop, but maybe not. They may just both have game in the name. Let's see.
I don't have enough mana.
Just do this. And this guy is just beating me down. Before Gamefly had a streaming service, Gamefly acquired the Israel-based streaming startup Playcast Media, where the company launched a pilot program with the Israeli cable network to stream games directly to the US television systems. There's kind of a surprising number of Israeli video game companies. It seems to be a growing system. For all I know, as much as I've said Tencent is a pretty obvious wing of the Chinese government, it's very possible that all these Israeli video game companies are being supported or under control of the Israeli government. Who knows? Like, it's kind of hard to tell. According to the press release announcing this deal, gameplay will join EA's functional team, including the central technology organization that is responsible for developing and operating the platform that powers EA games and services. A lot of EA stuff is like sports games and DLC and microtransactions, so I feel like this is an acquisition to try to support doing more of that.
Beetleberries, my
Should have played that first. Like, if EA was to have a streaming service all by itself, I'm not sure it would sell that well. But actually probably would work rather well for people that just are playing like FIFA and the EA Sports line, and EA is certainly not releasing too many of the new games that people might want to see. Instead, it's Battlefront, Battlefield, a lot of battle games, a lot of first-person shooters. In retrospect, now since I've been overlapped here with difficult victories that I needed, I'm gonna try and play Rogue, and I'm just gonna play casual. And we've gone 45 minutes, and I think what we'll do here is we'll try to stay very consistent about breaking up the recordings at 45 minutes, and then maybe do 4 recordings. I'm surprised it's taken me this long to get through the news, but I am going kind of slow. I prefer to go a little slow. I don't want extra pressure ever in my life, so when I look at my Chrome number of tabs and it's just tiny tab size because there's so many of them open, that certainly does add pressure. Anyways, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me even further, get me a game on Steam or a gift card on Steam. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening. Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we're back with another recording of Hearthstone. Today is May 23rd, Wednesday. We're going through the news kind of slow. We need to get one more Druid or Rogue victory, and then think about at the very least doing this one, or getting halfway through with that one. So we've been playing Druid, let's play Tempo Rogue. It's time to play casual because I want these victories, and looking at 4 victories is too much on ranked. Sure, I'd love to play ranked and try and get up higher, but it's just not happening. And remember, these decks that we've been playing are the decks recommended to me by hsreplay.net. So I'm not even playing things that I normally would play. Maybe I'm not giving it a fair enough shake, honestly, because I'm not learning the strategies and playing the right way, and I'm not paying enough attention to it because I'm covering the news and doing other things. That certainly is, I think, a slightly fair argument to make. But on the other hand, I'm still very much focused around the one and only concept of getting daily quests done. That's all I really care about, is just get the daily quest done and save myself some time. And meanwhile, while we're getting the daily quest done, let's try and get this, get the news done. So TechRaptor has an article. Exceeds 2018 catalog adds 4 more third-party games. Exceed and Marvelous are adding to their 28 catalog by publishing 4 more third-party games, including their first VR titles. The titles range from an action RPG called Toho Game to an alien blasting music game, and all look to broaden Exceed's appeal. There's a lot to sift through, but you can view a brief trailer for each of the games below in one large video. Okay, so let's watch this video. Meanwhile,
Choose soon. Here we go.
we have Toho Scarlet Curiosity, which is a decent looking platformer, action adventure, kind of dungeon crawler game, beat 'em up. It's coming to Steam 2018. I like the fast-paced action here in fighting. I like the graphics, they look pretty good, although kind of minimalistic. Next game is Gungrave VR, coming to the PS4 on fall 2018. It looks like a standard VR game where standing around and shooting things. Maybe the graphics are better. Gungrave, I think, is an anime, so it may have a bit of a license there.
Engaging TC-130 into dislocator.
But
Here we go.
for the most part, I'm not seeing anything amazingly cool here. This VR game, I guess, in one perspective, is a third-person perspective game, which is very weird. The next game is called Gal Metal. That's G-A-L space M-E-T-A-L for the Switch, and it's a bunch of girls, and it looks like one boy in a heavy metal band, and so it definitely to me looks like it is a music game. There have been a few anime stories of Japanese schoolgirls forming a heavy metal band, and their friendship growing or whatever else is going on. And then the third game is called Corpse Party 2 Dead Patients, which I assume is a sequel to Corpse Party 1. It looks a little 2D, a little chibi in the small character type animation style, where you're also walking around some very dark halls, and we saw one small instance where you get attacked, but I think if I was to guess, it's mostly built around walking and avoiding
Choose soon.
I'm pretty sure it's built around walking and avoiding the zombies, and it's mostly kind of a find the object point and click adventure type thing. Let's see. Corpse Party 1 came out in 1996, and it's an episodic release with a new setting but the same creepy atmosphere that is a hallmark of the Corpse Party series. And then it's talking about the other games. Let's see. Summon this. Do this. And that didn't work. Let's play that, I guess. Gal Metal is a rhythm game, but you're creating your own drum lines and form a band. Interesting.
No more take candles.
Apparently Gal Metal has already come out in Japan, and it reviewed positively, sold very poorly. Toho Scarlet Curiosity was released on the PS4 a few years ago. It's now coming to PC. So it's definitely feeling like these are just kind of re-releases of old games. Not anything super interesting, but actual news. Like, let's never forget when we actually get some news. Why? I guess I can play that. Do I want to play that? I could play this again. Do this. And do this. There you go. Next article we have, since that was kind of a bust of an article, just a very simplistic announcement that I could have probably narrowed down to a shorter explanation. Gamer Sutra has an article, Avalanche forms Malmo Studio to focus on flexible projects. So the Just Cause / Mad Max developer Avalanche, I think it was called Avalanche Studios, opened a new game studio called Malmo, M-A-L-M-O. The new opening will join the company's other offices in New York and Stockholm and will focus on relatively small and flexible projects built around AAA production values. So they're trying to do something like Senua's Sacrifice, Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice, I imagine. Remember, this is very weird because Avalanche has announced Rage 2. The suspicion I have, and many have, is that Rage 2 actually was going to be a Mad Max game because there can't be any more Mad Max properties or titles, movies, or anything because the company that owns the rights to Mad Max is suing the creator of Mad Max, or no, vice versa. The creator of Mad Max is suing the company that owns the rights to Mad Max because for unpaid like bonuses, and in retaliation the company that owns Mad Max has canceled all Mad Max projects. So knowing that, or at least heavily suspecting that that's the case, the guess here is that Malmo is a solution that was thought of when they got the news that they couldn't make Mad Max 2 as a game, probably several months, if not years ago. Well, we've got all these employees, we've got to do something with them, we've got to roll them off into an office or something we can blame or shutter, and we don't want to just shutter Avalanche. Normally the solution here would have been for them to shut down Avalanche and say, well, we just can't do that, but we'll shut down the company and we'll move some of the employees to other offices and fire some of the people. Here, instead, they went the extra mile and created a different company and gave them different projects, which is a very nice and I'd say ethical way to try to approach it, assuming this doesn't all end with people getting fired anyways, which is very possibly could. Let's see. Sarah Ponnert, S-A-R-A-P-O-N-N-E-R-T, will lead the Malmo branch. So, in effect, they've given a promotion to somebody as the new studio manager, having previously held down roles as at game publishers Panvision and Sony Ericsson Mobile. She'll now be tasked with building Avalanche's new office from the ground up, starting by helping a core team of senior developers relocate from Stockholm. Which that seems rather odd that they're moving people out of Stockholm, Sweden, to New York. That might be this in a nutshell, actually. If I'm recalling correctly, it might be a little difficult to fire people in Stockholm, Sweden, because they have like employment contracts and unions. But if you move them over to New York instead, which is what they said this was going to be, is New York, right? The new opening will join the company's other offices in New York and Stockholm. Actually, it doesn't say where this new office is going to be. So, I have to click an article to get facts for an article. This is not helpful. I wonder too.
Hey, lights out.
Here we go.
Already attacked.
So now I'm reading the second article. Sweden. Okay. Malmo is not the name of the studio. Malmo is a city in Sweden. I totally misread that article. So they're moving from Stockholm, Sweden to Malmo, Sweden. That seems like that's a more realistic
Lights out.
Here we go.
move for employees. And in fact, it might just be that some people wanted to move to Malmo in the first place, and maybe there's just cheaper offices in Malmo than Stockholm. Moving on, baseless speculation. This is interesting. This is the first game I've ever seen on Steam that had an emoji as part of its name. So, Pirate Skull and Bones space Dungeons and Hunting. It's a RPG clicker game, early access strategy RPG. Let's see how many achievements it has. None. It supports a ton of languages though, and it looks like it is a garbage collection of assets. I really don't get the idea of making a clicker game without achievements though. Shaman and Warlock time. Custom Shaman. Let's try this. This custom Shaman probably is just full of Shaman cards. And why does a clicker game need to be early access? Why does a clicker game need to be $6.99? It says it's a combination of an RPG and a clicker game. Let's see. One review in Russian giving it positive reviews. This is literally a nothing of a game. And screenshots are trying to make it look like it's something else. It's from a developer who has made about 10 games, and at best a handful of them have been mixed reviews. But I guess it does earn the distinction of being the first game I've ever seen with an emoji in the name, even though it has a pathetically bland name. Moving on, PC Gamer has an article. Former Wolfenstein / Bulletstorm devs set up a new studio called Neon Giant. So this is multiple devs, but you never really get a great listing of who. Somebody that worked on Wolfenstein, somebody that worked on Bulletstorm, and somebody that worked on Far Cry, and somebody that worked on Doom, and somebody that worked on Gears of War. That literally could be 2 people, or even 1 person. Or it could be 5 people, or it could be 20 people. Let's see. The person, actually they're listing it out here. Person who worked from Wolfenstein to Bulletstorm, then Doom and Gears of War. Game developers Tor Frick, Arcadeberg, Eric Glorson, and Jonathan Heckley have formed a new studio named Neon Giant. So that's like 4 people formed the studio. The thing that's kind of weird about this is I have to assume that the people forming these studios are getting lines of credit or investors. I really doubt that you're paid enough as a video game programmer to save up all of your money and then go form your own studio on that alone.
We have many secrets.
So I imagine they're getting some really loose investments from silent partners and investors who are just there for stocks whenever stocks are available. Let's see. Just there to make profit. Let's see. Yeah, it says with investor support from Goodbye Kansas, Neon Giant joins the like of Tarhead Studio, Fall Damage, a team founded by ex-DICE employees, and Palindrome Interactive under the former's umbrella. I don't know why you would need to reference a different company. This is one of these. This is a PC Gamer article, right? Yeah, this is literally 4 paragraphs and with 2 sentences per paragraph. Neon Giant, quote, Neon Giant consists of a real dream team that not only have an enormous experience but also have an incredibly efficient working process, says Goodbye Kansas game investor CEO per Arcane Ludenberg. I usually explain that we first and foremost invest in people no matter how promising the game projects in development are. Neon Giant is a perfect example of this, but they coincidentally also have something great in the works. I'm convinced that their first release will be a milestone in Swedish game development. Talking about a lot of Swedish game developers this week, apparently. That. And in the turn. This is a bad way to announce a new company, frankly, with nothing to work to really even tease. If the developers are people who worked on Far Cry 3, which I would say that's the outlier compared to Bulletstorm, Wolfenstein, Doom, and Gears of War, you pretty much know this is going to be a first-person game. It's probably not going to be too much open world, because only Far Cry 3 was a super open world type game, where the rest are very much level based. So maybe Neon Giant will come out with something in 4 years worth looking at, but maybe we'll never hear about them again in our lifetime. So we got somebody finally on the chat. Lemon Lover says you should have your own Rydo emoji for real. At some point, it would be an emoji because that's an international standards board. But at some point, there would be an emote on Twitch if I got enough followers. But I would also have to hire somebody or try and animate something myself, which that would be a pathetically bad idea, to make that emote. I don't particularly even know what I'd really want to do. Most of my logos and animations, because I don't have an artist, are very bland. So it'd probably just be an R, you know? It'd probably just be like the R from my logo. I certainly kind of struggle with having a YouTube identity as a character because I'm not really a character, and this is pathetic for any YouTuber to ever say this, but I'm really not trying to be anything different than what I really am, and what I really am for the most part is kind of boring, a boring person who's played a lot of video games and at the very least thinks they know a decent amount about video games. So I don't have anything that's like iconic or anything that I'd want, and since I wouldn't immediately want to just steal somebody else's art and make a derivative from that, it's the same issue with the t-shirts and the mugs. It's like, if I had an artist, I'd be fine if they wanted to make t-shirts and mugs, but for the most part I don't have any ideas. I think I'd leave it to fan art. So if people wanted to tweet me fan art, I would definitely keep a collection of that on Twitter and maybe show it off. But like I don't even know what it's about or what it would be. Let's see. If there's anything that I'm most passionate about, it would probably be like an anti-censorship message. So, like some kind of logo or emote trying to evoke that is kind of all I could think of. But yes, if I get tons and tons of followers, which I would need on Twitch if I'm ever going to like try and make my Twitch channel the successful one and get away from YouTube, like at some point they would open up and allow me to make custom emotes. Moving on, Gamasutra has a article. Microsoft partnership brings video game event to Special Olympics USA Games. Microsoft is bringing their first ever video game event to the Special Olympics USA Games this July thanks to the ongoing partnership between two organizations. 8 teams will compete in Forza Motorsport 7 at the Xbox Gaming Tournament at the 2018 Special Olympics USA Games. I guess they're different Special Olympics because they're saying Special Olympics USA Games every time. The Special Olympic event comes as Microsoft is aimed amid a big push to make video games more accessible. In a weird way, I would say Microsoft has kind of very nicely sidestepped any kind of identity politics garbage with their release of their new, more accessible, what are they called on Xbox, the avatars. Like they've nicely avoided any controversy there. They've nicely avoided many conversations and arguments, and instead they've decided to focus on something that could be considered universally positive, or nearly universally positive, which is, let's make an accessibility controller. Let's make a big push to make games open and welcoming to everyone. In doing that in the right way, where so many people have said, try to make the argument that video games will be only open and welcoming to everyone after we get rid of all the horrible like sexist and misogynists and abusive people that are already video game players. And one way attacks the community, one way doesn't. So from that spin-off, it feels like Phil Spencer in particular has taken this accessibility push to heart. I think it's working really well. Now arguably maybe this still is just an attempt to break the trademark or patent of the Nintendo Wii thumbstick, which is one of the devices that they're selling with that accessibility controller, but we'll see. Outside the tournament, Xbox also plans to have public video game space set up during the event where attendees can play Forza Motorsport 7, Minecraft, and Super Lucky's Tale. Seems like this is pretty much just an advertisement around the Forza Motorsport tournament at the Special Olympics, and oddly they're not even directly mentioning that the accessibility controllers will be available for people to use. And even if the accessibility controllers are available to use, it's not like something you can just set up. Like, you're gonna need all those extra little buttons and controllers, so even if Microsoft gives the base unit for $100 to every tournament participant, the participant's still gonna say, okay, I also need this, and this to bump it up to like a $500. In my opinion, would probably be closer to $500 minimum to use that accessibility controller accurately and well. So that'll be interesting to see if that tournament happens and everybody that is playing it is required to use just a controller. Here's the list of changes. Nerfed cards. I don't think it's really even worth turning the nerf cards to dust.
You asked
though,
for it.
now that I'm looking at the list of them for the latest nerfs, it certainly is arguable, I suppose, that Hearthstone might be going in the wrong direction. Nerfing cards so soon after another nerf pushes it into this direction where maybe they're fixing things, maybe they're just setting up a new baseline where we get a nerf every 2 or 3 months, or even one every month, and that would be too much. That'd be very irritating. Moving on, we have a game called Quarantine Circular. Let's see, what is this? Adventure Indie Casual. Let's see. The team behind Thomas Alone and Subsurface Circular comes with another experimental short, The Next Mutation in Text-Based Adventure. In the middle of a world-ending pandemic, a group of scientists discover the galaxy has been watching. Interesting. This is funny because this is supposed to be like a text-based adventure, but it's not. There's 3D characters in the background, but I think all you do is read the messages in the middle of the screen. This is quite an experiment, certainly. 20% off for $4.79. This game is short. Even they're saying that. Let's see what the 2 negative versus the 35 positive are.
I don't need any of you.
The first not recommended played for almost 2 hours. If games like Proteus and Dearest are walking simulators, Quarantine Circular is a talking simulator. The problem is that it's not a very good one. In its predecessor, Subsurface Circular, the conversation involved AI units speaking to one another. This made it much easier to overlook stilted and unnatural progressions in the conversation. Robotic dialogue makes sense if it's coming from 2 robots. In Quarantine Circular, the extent to which conversations are railroaded become immersion breaking in that they cannot be ignored. In just the second chapter, I had a human character looping me back to the beginning of a conversation because 2 unrelated points I made, which he had heard twice now, were chosen in the wrong order. But if he hears one sentence for a 3rd time and hears another sentence for a 3rd time, both verbatim, simply in different order, he is not convinced. So yeah, that sounds like that's a not great experience. And frankly, I'm not hearing anything in this game that would interest me. Oh, the other negative reviews, I think it won't hurt much if I thumb it down. I feel like it's acceptable to do this and add a voice of criticism here. I don't know why somebody who played the game for 7.5 hours needs to justify their opinion at all. I went to this with extremely good and positive mood. I had obviously enjoyed Thomas Whistle and I found myself amazed by the QC looks and adored the chance. I guess this is Quarantine Circular. Let's see how much of this article. Wow, it just goes on and on and on and on. Oh my god, I didn't know you could write a review. Did not know you could write a review that was... Job done. Gosh, this has to be at least 500 words. At least 500 words of a review. It's a full-on article. Longer than half of the video game articles in the world. That. So, looking at the developer, is it called BitHell Games or BitHell Games? Might be BitHell. Subsurface Circular is positive. Thomas Was Alone. I don't know why people even like Thomas Was Alone, frankly. I've seen this game. It's like this minimalistic platform, Super Meat Boy type game, and it feels like it was over advertised. So it'll be interesting to see if maybe this is another one of these developers who's friends with a lot of the video game, mainstream video game reporters, and therefore this new game, Quarantine Circular, gets more publication and exposure than it should. As for me, I'm just gonna close that tab. Speaking of slightly questionable video game reporters' ethics, Patrick Klepek showed back up on Giant Bomb after, frankly, he has not been on Giant Bomb for like 2 years, or maybe he showed up once, or maybe he showed up on the Beast cast and not the Bombcast like maybe a year ago. But he's been pretty absent, and if he's showing back up, I'm wondering if maybe he'll make a comeback. We haven't, well, I guess Ben 2 worked for Whiskey Media, so it wouldn't be unheard of for somebody to leave the company and then come back and then maybe leave the company again. So maybe that's what we will see. Right now, Patrick Klepek is working for Vice.com, which I believe is also where or one of the Vice.coms, maybe not the main website, maybe a spin-off or something. But that is also where another Beastcaster went, which is just kind of goes to show that everybody gets hired and fired specifically based on who you know and how they feel about you in the video game. Well, then basically that is the California and New York world too. Is that it's about who you know. It's not about your skill. It's not about what you're doing. As a slight reminder, Patrick Klepek did a lot of actual journalism, more than most video game journalism. But then he became like a major SJW. His Twitter profile at one point at least said he was super woke, and he just started talking about the same identity politics stuff over and over again. He was one of the originators, I would argue, of the problems that now are plaguing the video games reporting industry. Moving on, a game on Steam called Reum, R-H-E-U-M. I don't know if that's the right way to pronounce that. It says it's an action-adventure indie shoot-'em-up shooter game. What am I supposed to say about this graphics? It's very, very red, very grotesque. Supposed to be fleshy and gross. It really is just a bullet hell shooter, as best as I can tell. I guess I have to watch the trailer because each of these screenshots is not showing me what I need to see for a game that I kind of know is going to be so fast paced. Yeah, it's like a bullet hell shooter that seems like you might be flying through a monster's body or something.
The end is coming!
Something similar to along the lines of that. Well, I know for me, I'm not going to play a bullet hell shooter. This is $2.99. It says 3 playable characters, 2 difficulty modes, endless modes. Have 5 positive reviews. I think I really am going to have to hit a point where I start just saying I cannot accurately form an opinion on some of these games. It's like I just don't know. This does have kind of a Binding of Isaac feel to it, but not, the graphics aren't as good. I think inherently that's the part of this that kills it for me, is that if the graphics were a little bit better, I might consider it. But as it currently sits, it's just not good enough for me to recommend it as a first product from a developer. Next game we have is called Survival Last Day. It is mostly negative, with 37% of 24 users giving it a positive review. It's the only game from this developer, 30% off for $2.09. What in the world did this developer do to irritate so many people? It's probably an asset flip, but how would people even find asset flips enough to negative review them? First review is cheap copy of Rust. In fact, I'm sure this is a fraud entry on Steam, is what the review says. Just go ahead and hit this. I shouldn't have played this card. That was dumb of me. Next says... The next review is not recommended. Let's see, I skipped one recommended review, and then there's not recommended. Here's a short review, not recommended. Saying the game is bad is being too polite. It's a poor man's Rust. Nothing new, no save, no instruction. It's only $1.46 in pounds. I think the developer should double my refund for playing such a bad game. So what's interesting here is that this game tried almost certainly to look like Rust, a popular, well-known game, and instead of that tricking people to buy the game and then that bringing goodwill by the number of sales or bringing money, it has backfired in their face completely because the comparison is just way too much.
I don't
Like,
need any of
compared to Rust, which isn't even much of a game, Survival Last Day is so bad that people are getting refunds and writing bad reviews, to the point where it has some of the lowest review scores that I've seen in a while. If you had put out a game like this that didn't look like Rust, many people would have never even seen it to give it a bad review. But now it's getting buried. To the point where I thought maybe it was getting buried because maybe Jim Sterling or somebody covered it, but I don't see any evidence of that. Next game we have on Steam is called SCALAK. Scalak? It's rated positive, 100% with 12 user reviews. That's a little small, but this seems like a very interesting combination of puzzles. I would call this a one-screen Unity game. The question that'll boil down to is how many puzzles are in this game to make it worth the $1.79 that it's selling for right now with 10% off. And it contains over 90 levels with an ever-evolving game flow. And I think that would explain why this is so positive. Although some of these positive reviews certainly are from people who got the game for free. Well, I'm a sucker for puzzle games, and this is from the same developer for some of the other. Well, apparently it's not from the same developer, but maybe the same publisher. Yeah, same publisher of... Nope. How are you making a bundle with games that you don't develop or publish? Is that something people can do now? Because the game Hook is one of the things in the bundle, and it has a completely different publisher and developer. So apparently what happened there is that somebody made the game Hook and said their personal names were the publisher, and now they've incorporated let's do this. Alright, well, Scalak, SCALAK, a puzzle game. It looks good. If you like puzzle games, I'd recommend it. I kind of recommend everybody try some puzzle games of some sort. Sometimes that's in real life, sometimes it's in video games. There's probably some mobile games you could get for free to test the waters on that. Next game we have is called Ancestors Legacy. Very positive, 90% of 220 user reviews, and it came out May 22nd, so that is there you go, I just ruined their strategy. That's a lot of people to play this game, so there must have been some hype for it first. It says it's a strategy, violent, real-time, tactical, medieval game. It looks a lot like Ages of Empires, although it seems like it may have a little bit of zoom in, so it's not just a directly top-down, it's more of an isometric or over-the-shoulder perspective. Sometimes seems like you could probably zoom in and zoom out. Rated M, 10% off for $40.49. This is a real game from, it looks like, a real company. So it's at 90% positive. It's kind of pointless to read the reviews that are negative, but let's do it anyways. This is one of those games where just because of the strategy aspect of it, it's not something I would play. Let's see. The first not recommended says too much for me to say anything.
Fool rejects the Lich King.
The bottom of the review though says, cannot recommend this game at the current price tag. I have more fun with $10 Age of Empires 1 or 2. The next not recommended says, the presentation is great, maybe minus some of the voice acting. It just doesn't go full Total War or full Halo Wars. So seems like this game is probably not as complicated as several of the other Total War games out there. So Ancestors Legacy seems like it might be maybe too simple for some fans, but it too might be marketed towards newer people to that type of game. The developer that made Ancestors Legacy has made 3 other games, and one of them is the infamous Hatred. Interesting. And then the other is something called IS Defense, where you go against ISIS. Interesting. So the IS Defense is also 100% positive with 11 recent reviews in the last 30 days and 94% in total positive. And it came out April 19th, 2016. Interesting. It's an on-rail shooter. Why not? If I'm gonna play Hatred, and if I'm gonna play... Even Hatred is mostly positive at 71%, so I think people have figured out what they wanted from this developer. So it becomes rather strange now because they're giving something different.
I told you so. Takari killed the bosses.
Yeah, it really makes no sense where Hatred is 70% off for $2.09. IS Defense is $5.99 at no discount, and then Ancestors Legacy is this completely different game that they've probably been working on for 2 years, because it's been 2 years since their last release, where they released Hatred June 1st, 2015, and IS Defense on April 19th, 2016. I suspect either the company was bought out, or they took a different direction, or, I mean, this feels like the company was bought out. Because they've gone from releasing $5 games to $40 games, and that is a wild shift in a completely different strategy and style of gameplay.
I wonder.
Let's go ahead and do this and do this.
told ya so.
This.
I told ya so.
And this. And then return. PC Gamer has an article. A 500 episode Doctor Who marathon is coming to Twitch. Let's see.
Shields up.
It'll start with the 1963 episode The Unearthly Child, which was, I think, a pretty famous one, but I'm not sure it's the very first one. Let's see. Here's the question though. It says 26 seasons. Does that include any of the new Doctor Who, or is this all just old Doctor Who? Or is it specifically Doctor Who that's was in color? Because I think there was a small amount that was in black and white. Yeah, they're gonna show some black and white ones too.
I told ya so.
I'm not sure how many people are going to be fans of watching black and white or Doctor Who in general on Twitch. That is certainly another thing that is also an issue on Twitch with mine, is that Twitch wants me to auto mod and like host other people, and I have no clue who I'd want to host. If I should, or who I'd want to host. Like, do I host super famous people so maybe it gets me more followers, or do I host super small people, even smaller than my channel, out of kindness? Doesn't matter at all. Probably doesn't. Yep, I seriously doubt too many people are going to be watching Doctor Who on Twitch. You could be watching it, frankly, on other services. The Jigsaw puzzle games are continuing to come out on Steam, and it is from the same developer. But again, I'm not going to be the voice of censorship on Valve, because if I do, Valve is going to hear the wrong message and they're going to like censor the wrong things.
Job done.
So I'm just going to ignore things. Gematsu has an article. God Wars: The Complete Legend launches September 4th in North America, August 31st in Europe. It was June 14th in Japan. Let's see, what is God Wars: The Complete Legend? Let's see if we can watch the trailer and figure out what kind of game it is. Well, I'm looking at a animated cutscene, and then now it's jumping to the actual gameplay, and it looks like it's an isometric RPG visual novel type story. I think it's not really a visual novel as much as it's just going to have some of that old school JRPG stories in it. This, if translated well, might be an interesting game to try and learn more about the Shinto and Buddhist god and mythology. Maybe not, depending on how it's localized. Apparently I've gone long enough to... And I don't know if I really ever want to do this third one. Like, rogue class cards or shaman or warlock now. Or do I move over to the Americas account? Actually, I think I move over to the Americas account because there's still a lot to do. I've got two things here, but I suppose I might be alright to wait and even have 3 daily quests tomorrow, because if I start streaming on Friday, as long as it's not incredibly late, around 7 o'clock I guess, for the European account, I won't be bumping into that issue. So yes, this is a good point to wrap up. Again, we're trying to be very consistent on run links. That's it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me even more, gift me a game or a gift card on Steam. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.
The tavern's always open.
Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we're back with another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Wednesday, May 23rd, and we just closed the chat. There we go. We're on the Americas account. We're pushing our luck though, and we're not really doing all the daily quests that need to be done. So depending on how long it takes me to wrap up the news, which is, I'm certainly taking my time with it. There was more to say, I guess, about everything than I thought. Or maybe I just need that pressure that I don't want. Just to make myself actually get things done well. I suppose I could come back and do these tavern brawls and win, because I've won on the first try with the other 2 tavern brawls. Cards have been nerfed also. Rogue, Priest, Warlock, or Warrior. We'll just take Priest for it. Yeah, I guess since I need some victories on each of the accounts, it wouldn't be a terrible thought to do the tavern ball some more. But let's try to cover the news, because I want to, at least 10 minutes before I wrap up this recording, in about 45 minutes, I want to start going down my Twitter account. Every time I end a Twitter, every time I end a stream, I'm scrolling down my Twitter account looking for new news, and it's delaying the ending. So our first bit of news is the Leisure Suit Larry game, called Leisure Suit Larry Wet Dreams Won't Dry, is coming this year. We saw it quickly accidentally published on Steam, which was further complicated by the fact that Steam was threatening to take a bunch of the visual novel sex games off of Steam, so that seems like a weird twist. The publisher Assemble Entertainment has confirmed that Leisure Suit Larry Wet Dreams Won't Dry is in development and expected to be out this year. The new game will take Leisure Suit Larry from the end of the 80s to the 21st century, which sounds like it could be a setup for a smart, self-aware, fish out of water tale about learning not to be such a greasy douchebag. I think you lose the whole point of Leisure Suit Larry if he is not still the character that he was in the 21st century. I think it just gets funnier as he becomes a fish out of water. Alright, so now I need Rogue and Warrior victories. We'll see what we can do with that. Now, the way that is phrased, ooh, an epic. The way that is phrased, it feels like I probably already have that. Feels like Leisure Suit Larry might be doing some time traveling. So all 5 of those cards also go into the dustbin, which leaves me with 680 dust. Nice, we'll get up to 800 pretty quick. There's a lot of PC gamer editorialization about this, talking about this game. Honestly, I have to wonder if it wouldn't be better for Leisure Suit Larry to just not be covered by PC Gamer, because they are not effectively doing their job. Let me start playing a game. Rogue Warrior. Like, they're not effectively doing what I would state their job is, which is to cover all video games in an unbiased media, because they're not hiring anybody who isn't extremely biased in a kind of anti-sex, sex-negative, feminist perspective, which is the wrong perspective in my opinion. And in the same way that I consider myself extremely biased in a sex-positive, sort of egalitarian opinion. I'm not gonna call myself a feminist, but I want all people to be treated equally, and so ignoring. So I kind of wonder, like I guess that's all I can do is, like, should PC Gamer just, like, not give their opinion? Should they just not bother to cover it at all? Many, I think, would argue, yeah, they should, for their own reasons. Just, like, not giving, they love to deplatform people. SJWs love to deplatform people, not let people talk. It's pretty easy for a news reporting site to say, well, we're just not going to talk about this. And you often see that in news reporting sites where they just like, we probably would have done better if we just did not report this story at all, because it doesn't fit into our narrative and we don't want to support things around it.
Here we go.
Ignoring all of that, scrolling down through these pictures, I kind of like what I'm seeing. I feel like Leisure Suit Larry's artistic style is definitely different here. It's not the Magna Cum Laude 3D Larry. This is still trying to do a flat 2D point-and-click adventure type game, but it seems like they've scaled up the character, and then in scaling up the character, they are drawing something that we haven't seen before as far as a character. They're specifically going away from anything that you would claim as an anime style, like very tall characters, long legs for both the males and females, long arms, tall. The height of the character seems like a 6 foot tall person. It's not going for a flashy, colorful anime style either. It is kind of colorful with a lot of pink and red tones, but very also subtle and subdued in those tones. Here's a guy with a man bun, which I bet that plays a role. I wouldn't be surprised if Leisure Suit Larry is running across a lot of people that don't appreciate him, because that's kind of the whole joke. So I look forward to this new game. I hope it's better than Leisure Suit Larry Reloaded, which is a game I'm still trying to find a Steam code for, because it's not available for purchase anymore. And I know it's not good, and that's part of the reason why it's not available for purchase. But I would like to own it, and it seems like somebody's would have to get a Steam code somewhere. And I tried to search Humble Bundle, Humble Store. Game did not come up. So I don't know, maybe you can't find it anywhere. Maybe I'd have to, maybe it would be available for purchase in a physical form, which that would be something weird to buy physical form. Also, it's kind of weird that they're just making their next game and not fixing the previous one. Like that previous one was a remake of the original game, and it was done poorly. You would think somebody would have tried to fix that, or done something. Run it in DOSBox. Run the original game in DOSBox. Anyways, moving on. I'm talking about every game way too long. The survival game Raft, which I've seen several people stream, it's rated very positive at 87% of the 256 users. It's out of early access as multiplayer crafting. Honestly, I don't think it has too much. Wait, is this that game, or is this a cheap ripoff of that game? This might be a cheap ripoff of that game, actually.
I wonder.
Is Raft the name of the game where you're on a raft fighting sharks? Because all the animation I'm seeing now does not really line up with the Raft game that I recall watching other people play. What do I say about this, then?
I'm dead. Tell no
Here we go. Too soon.
Maybe they just gave a new bit of color and a new texture to Raft when it came out of early access. It still feels like this is the same game. And inherently, I think the problem with Raft is that you're just building this raft, and that's it. You never can get to an island of any sort. You never, in the exact opposite of like Minecraft. Well, apparently there are islands now.
Is someone injured?
So maybe that's the end game. This has had an all-time peak of 8,260 people, so it says it's still early access, so why is it listed out of early access? $19.99. Let's see the 34 versus 251 negative reviews. Let's see, this might be...
never end.
I did that wrong.
Here we go.
The first not recommended says, it's an alright game for what it is, but $20 is a bit steep for what you're getting. Wait until sale. Next recommendation game is just simply isn't worth $20. And I agree. I think the price is marked up on Raft. This compared to what was the name of that game I covered about a year ago? Submerged or Sunken or something. It started with an S, I'm pretty sure. It was a flooded city where you're playing as this girl, going to different buildings and platforming to get items. I'm ready to throw in the towel and start playing Tavern Brawls, because these are Tavern Brawls. This is like the first week ever where I found a Tavern Brawl that is super easy to learn on. Anyways, that game I covered about a year ago that was either called Sunken or Submerged or something. Or maybe Sundered. It felt like a $5 game. Raft in the same way feels like a $5 game. It's the first game from this developer. I will wishlist it, certainly, because it has at least a small bit of historical reason to be covered. And frankly, it might be the new Minecraft. But I think it's probably already come and gone, so I doubt Raft is going to catch too many more people's attention. Let's trade out all these. Let's see. We got somebody on the chat being a troll and then telling me to buy 22 packs, and then no to both. Next game we have is called Asalamba, ASYLAMBA : Influence. It's a strategy, indie casual puzzle space sci-fi game. What kind of game is this? It seems like it's circles and lines. You're drawing circles and lines, which I guess are planets and trade routes or something, to gain influence. Alright, what do I want to do? Let's do that.
The greatest virtue is patience.
This game just does not look visually appealing. It's 10% off for $5.39. And without even really trying to understand what it is as far as a strategy game, the fact that it looks really, really boring knocks it out of contention, in my opinion. Let's do this.
Haste makes waste.
The publisher of this game has only published this one game, and then is selling a non-DLC second game that includes wallpapers and a non-DLC third game that includes soundtracks. So, like, they're not even selling it as DLC, it seems. So I have nothing more to say about that game. Let's move on. Right. Let's play this and do this and do this.
Haste makes waste.
Game of Citra has an article. We Happy Few has been refused classification by the Australian ratings board. Censored Gaming, which is a YouTube channel, also figured this out. In general, the reason is because you take pills and get some sort of positive effect. You're taking a drug and getting a positive effect because of that drug throughout the course of playing We Happy Few. And the Australian Classification Board does not like that, so I don't know how Gearbox as the publisher, or what is the name of the actual makers of We Happy Few? It's not even said in this article.
In the grand tournament,
I don't see how they could particularly edit that out. They're already taking a fictional drug and it's a major part of the story. When it's refused classification in Australia, it's banned from sale and import, so theoretically that means nobody in Australia is supposed to be allowed to play the game at all.
Taste my blade.
But in practicality, we know that that's not really true. Let's see. We need
Haste
this
makes
here.
waste.
This here. Okay. There is a slight possibility, I guess, that the We Happy Few could appeal the rating, but it seems like We Happy Few is just not coming to Australia. We Happy Few in general, it's got some problems. What's interesting about the description from Censored Gaming is it talked a lot more about how the game has 3 main characters, and those main characters are specifically going through more of a single player story, which is not how the game is. Last time I looked at it, it was very much an open world experience that really didn't have any kind of story, and most people, including myself, were suspecting it was going to be more along the lines of a single player, one main character experience. And it's still not quite there, but if it has 3 characters with some kind of story in it, I'd be interested in seeing the story, but I don't know if I want to play a survival game to get to that. At the core of it, it still is just a survival game. And so there's a lot of disappointment there. Maybe worth mentioning, Jim Sterling voice acted in that before he officially announced that he was no longer a video games journalist. But let's face it, he practically never was. That's an ungenerous statement, but that's the shade I'm gonna throw. But even Jim Sterling said We Happy Few has a lot of problems when he saw it. All he did was record some voice lines. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article: Spooky Goblin sports game Graveball launches for PC July 31st. Is this a game worth talking about? Now, the one thing about TechRaptor I will say is that sometimes they just cover games just because they might be getting the scoop, or just because they need an article, where PC Gamer in particular is much more obvious about, they talk about the big AAA games, and if they're talking about something that's even a AA game, it's probably because they're getting paid to advertise that game. This game, Graveball, from the trailer looks interesting. It's kind of like a basketball, but you're playing as zombies. Experience kind of fast-paced. It releases July 31st. And as I'm trying to move away from talking about games until they are out, I guess it's only in these small instances of covering news articles that I'll start seeing newer games. I'm willing to wishlist Graveball. It's not 100% basketball. It seems like you have staffs that can also hit the ball, but you can also carry the ball. So it's kind of a combination. Let's see, the thing that will kill this is if it's multiplayer only. No, it does have a single player. So that saves the one question I would have had. Let's play this. We've got a game on Steam called Warstone TD. It's a tower defense game. It's from a different company that made the other tower defense game released a few days ago. which is weird because I specifically saw something with TD in the name, and this looks very similar to it, but it says it's a different company. $14.99. What kind of fool would pay that much money for a tower defense game? That's all I need to see. I'm moving on. Let's see. Next legendary calls this, and then this, and then
your
this.
skills are growing.
So it doesn't even save me anything to do this. I'd have to do 16 damage in total to kill these two Kel'Thuzad's before I could do anything. Next game we have on Steam is called Disco Zombie Rampage 2, and I believe, well, it's English only. I was assuming that this was going to be a Chinese game for as low quality as it is. Just a clear and blatant, very low effort asset flip game. It's trying to be Onichambra, but it's even worse than Onichambra. Like, I could play the games in the Onichambra series and probably find something enjoyable from it. This I could not. And one major problem this game has, as I'm looking at the trailer, that I've never seen in any other game, is it is just horribly blown out in the brightness department. Most video games completely go the other direction, and instead will let's play this.
Safety restrictions offline. Harvesting servos. Safety restrictions offline. Harvesting servos. Engaged.
Do we have enough? We have 4 Kel'Thuzad, so there's no way I can win.
For the glory of Stormwind.
There we go. I kind of wish this asset flip game was good, just for the stupidity of it, but no. This apparently won Veron Ease Game of the Year. I've never heard of Veronese. And this company, this is a fake game, clearly, because it's from a company that's made a bunch of meme games too, so that Game of the Year award is probably made up too. Alright, 2 victories. Try it again. Moving forward, Nurse Love Addiction is coming to the Switch on May 24th in Japan. Following a ditzy girl training to become a nurse. This is one of these anime girls. Is it a visual novel? Yes, it is.
Versus Leandrin.
My blade burns with
They say this is the visual novel equivalent of ER Love and Medicine. This is one of those visual novels that I imagine doesn't actually have any sex scenes or nudity in it, though it's mostly just going to be a standard fare, although it's arguable to say the ones with the sex scenes are the standard fare and the ones without are the oddballs out. Moving forward, though, next game we have on Steam is A Tale of Pirates, A Dummy Mutiny. This is a VR game I think I have already seen. Yes, I have. 25% off for $9.79. Didn't this game come... Yeah, I've already seen this game, so why is it being marked as new again? Maybe because I looked at it when I looked at Potion Explosion. Yeah, I think that's what happened. And I guess I need to be careful not to look at games before they come out. Standard VR game. It's got a theme of a... guess I can't do anything.
Hello, challenger.
Theme of pirates. You're shooting a bunch of dummies on your ship. It's a standing shooting game. You're getting a score. It's probably one of the better VR games, but it's still all the same thing. It's always just a just standing in one place shooting at things, which arguably might be half of what most video games are, but usually you're running around shooting things in most video games. Next game we have is called Metanoia, M-E-T-A-N-O-I-A. First person adventure set inside the mind exploding island that is your mind, and find portals to the worlds, each showcasing a mental illness. Early access, action, adventure, indie casual game. This is one of those games that could be a single person trying to do something really cool, and if you have to find the portals, they're actually putting a little bit of gameplay in it too. Now, I'm not going to complain about this game being a little visually separate and having a lot of assets, because I feel like they might, like, it doesn't look like an asset flip as much as it is somebody used a lot of assets to try and cover a game, make a game themselves. It's early access. It's 10% off for $2.69. Let's see if we've got any reviews. We have one positive review.
Job's done.
Yeah, this is a game I want to give the developer a chance. It's our first game. He's not asking too much. 10% off, $2.69. Made in Unity. The guy is publishing it by his own name. I'm gonna wishlist this one. Metanoia. It's probably not for everybody, but it does feel like it's something that should be shown. Do I want to do that first?
You will pay for that, cur.
Let's see. Keep moving. Next game we have is called Postscriptum. The first-person simulation shooter provides authentic World War II combat experience. And it's a massively multiplayer online MMO game. I don't know if I trust it's coming soon, but you can pre-purchase it for $29.99. Yeah, and there are no reviews because you can't actually play it. I didn't realize that pre-purchasing was a thing I was going to start running over into.
That is incredible.
It's coming out spring 2018, but I guess maybe that is something.
The thrill of the hunt.
I don't know if I really trust the publisher, the developer, to make an MMO though. It seems like it's way too ambitious. And we've got like finally polished trailers here, but not really any gameplay I'm seeing. And there's just so many places you could drop the ball on this. Plus it doesn't, I guess, matter to me because I'm not gonna play a World War II shooter anyways. It's an MMO. Moving on.
Well played.
PC Gamer has a article. XCOM 2 mod adds over 1,000 lines from the cult space sitcom Red Dwarf. So, as somebody who's watched most of Red Dwarf, maybe there's been a season that's come out since I last watched them. I've liked some of it the first or second time I watched it. It gets increasingly harder to like Red Dwarf as you watch it multiple times, and possibly just because you get older. It's kind of kid and it's kind of angsty teenager level of let's try a different character instead of a warrior. Let's try the rogue. See if that works any better. The characters that this mod makes don't quite look like the cast from Red Dwarf. And Red Dwarf has this issue of they kind of came back several times, and every time they came back they just said the same jokes that they did before. Which didn't really go over great. But I suppose I wanted to mention it. Like, I don't think I'd play XCOM with that mod though, if I was gonna play XCOM at all. Let's see. So if I do this and then this and then this and this, seems like every
Amazing.
Job done.
Oh, I was confusing this. I was thinking this was the pirate character. This is the Murloc character. Alright, well, whatever. Moving on to the next article. 20XX launches for PS4 and Switch on July 10th and Xbox One on July 11th. Let's see. It's a roguelike action platformer, which is not a great thing to be a roguelike right now because we've just seen way too many roguelike games that just aren't capturing people's attention like Rogue Legacy did. And there's this Spelunky 2 has been announced too, so even further less likely. 20XX is a fast platformer game with really fast-paced fighting. It says it has multiplayer and daily and ranked challenges. I'm not sure if this is a single player game though. Let's see. Yes, it does have a single player. It's kind of in the vein of well, that was a waste of a card. It's in the vein of Mega Man. So I guess I'll wishlist 20XX, but I could also find myself not being very interested once I start hearing some reviews of the game. And
Here
let's
we
do this.
go.
Gamatsu has an article, 12 more minutes of fighting EX layer gameplay. Let's see. That is a PlayStation 4 game that I don't have a date listed in this article. be at the PlayStation Store worldwide by the end of June. And it does look like a Tekken ripoff game. I'm not seeing anything wrong with it, but it is just kind of that, just a Tekken ripoff game. So, close that article.
Here we go.
Let's see. Gematsu has the Colonnade for PlayStation 4 opening movie due out with English text support on June 14th in Japan. So Colonnade has been on the PC for quite a while. And it's coming out for the PS4. Colonnade is one of the best known visual novel games, I would say, based on an anime that was based on, I believe, a light novel. And so coming to the PS4 to Japan, but very possibly not coming to the West for probably no reason even. I don't even think Colonnade has anything offensive in it, but maybe it does. Like, I'm risking getting spoiled on the game if I look it up. Let's see. Let's play this. And this. And this.
Job's done.
And then return. A game called Creed Rise to Glory is coming to the PlayStation VR this fall. So it's Apollo Creed, Rocky Balboa, son, I believe. It's a VR game based around that. As a bigger fan of boxing games than I once realized, I'll be interested in seeing how well this succeeds and how well, if anything really comes out based on that. It's still just a PlayStation VR, so I would mostly need it to come out without a VR requirement on Steam for me to play it. Let's see. Gamasutra has an article. It says, opinion, eliminating the shadowy group, celebrating Valve's latest censorship drive. This is a article that I haven't read, but it is talking about the Moral Panic adversary group. I call it Moral Panic. Advocacy group called the Center on Sexual Exploitation, the National Center on Sexual Exploitation, which used to be called like Morals in Media, or Morality in Media. It's a Christian interfaith anti-obscenity organization founded in 1962. And see, what's pathetic about this without reading the whole article, because I really don't need to do anything, is they claimed victory, that they got all these games on the brink of being kicked off of Steam, and then Steam immediately backtracked and said, no, actually, you didn't. Let's do this. Play this. Play this. Play this. And then, oops, I shouldn't have done that first. This article is written by Catherine Cross, a PhD student in sociology, researches antisocial behavior online, and a gaming critic whose work has appeared in multiple to give a brief recap, the last part of this article says, whatever role the the NCO SE played in Valve's decision, there's value in knowing about their tactics and the cowardice with which they're employed. It can only lead to more open and honest discussions about sexuality in gaming. I don't know how them being cowards or using unethical tactics is going to lead to more open and honest discussions about it, because there's actually not been too many discussions about this group, whether or not they actually had any actual involvement with Valve's recent decision to send out that email. I'm still kind of in the opinion that it was somebody in Campo Santo, or somebody that pushed for Campo Santo to be hired at Valve, that there is one or a few bad eggs at Valve trying to push an agenda, which is very weird because Valve has been pretty well known to never push any kind of agendas or really even have any kind of direction in general. Eurogamer has an article, the PUBG developers changed the way sound works in the game, but forgot to tell anyone. Let's see. So they just didn't even bother to put it in the patch notes, or forgot to. That does not sell confidence in selling your product when you can't do something as simple. Can't even do a simple thing like inform the customers of the changes. I should be able to run here. We have a game called Paper Dungeon Crawler. Doesn't look graphically appealing. I think it's selling itself right, and it looks alright graphically. It's still not pretty. It's 15% off for $8.49, and I don't think I would give it that much money for what it's selling. And frankly, if you're gonna play a pen and paper Dungeons and Dragons type game, which is what it kind of is, why not just do that in the real world with your friends around the table? Or why not use Tabletop Simulator? Or why not play a game that looks a little bit better and does it better and hide some of those things? Let's see, we don't need 2 of these. Let's do that. So close that.
Hello.
Gematsu has the media create sales for 5/14 to 5/20. There's probably not enough time since we're running late. I've found a way to run late even after recording a decent
Let's show our guests a good
like
time.
a decent amount of things. After recording 4 episodes. Anyways, let's see. Software sales. PS4, the Caligula Effect Overdose sold 20,399 copies. And this is in Japan, I suppose. So that Caligula Effect Overdose, which is based on an anime, or has an anime that's based off the game, one or the other, I'm not even sure, outsold Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze by 5,000, roughly. Outsold Splatoon, which, as Splatoon's not new. Let's see, outsold something on the PS4 called GKO Powerful Pro Yakyo 2018, which is probably a wrestling game if I was to guess. Outsold Mario Kart 8, outsold Kirby Star Allies, outsold the Nintendo Labo Toy-Con 01 variety kit, which sold 8,151 units. Outsold the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild limited edition included in that, so 2 different versions. Outsold Super Mario Odyssey, and outsold the Vita version of Jico, Powerful Pro, Hyakio. Outsold something called the Snack World, Treasures Gold. Let's see. Outsold Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Outsold Rainbow Six Siege. That's about the most Western game that you're even getting close to. Well, if I play this, it's not going to do anything, so.
Blood will flow.
Outsold Animal Crossing, Nintendo Labo Toy-Con 2, which only sold 1,762 units. That's a big jump down. Outsold the 1-2 Switch, which that's a... Didn't that come with the Wii? Outsold City Skylines. Outsold Pokken Tournament DX. And outsold ARMS, which ARMS is number 20 on the sales with 1,527 sales. As far as hardware sales, number 1 is Switch, then PS4, then PS4 Pro, then new 2DS LL, which I guess is probably XL in English. That still doesn't work, does it? New 3DS LL below new 2DS. PlayStation Vita. There's 1,000 more sales for the new 2DS than the 3DS. And then the 2DS original sold 413 units. The Xbox One sold 146 units. And the Xbox One X sold 54 units. So that's the sales for that week. Caligula Effect Overdose selling a lot higher than what I thought it would have done. Okay. So where are we now? We've got everything done on the Americas account. I suppose it's best to run back and do the European account. We've got a game on Steam called Forgotten Adventure. Boy, does this look like a simplistic game. I don't think I can recommend this. It just looks like way too simplistic a platform. It's 99 cents, so it might be priced right. And it does have a little bit of a polish on it. But at the core of it, the real problem is the fact that let's try the Warlock. Or can I do Shaman? Was that the other character? Shaman might be more useful. Let's see. Yeah, Shaman. Let's see. The developer of this game that I was just talking about, that I've already forgotten the name of, seems to have more positively reviewed 99-cent games than negative or mixed review. So it seems like they keep themselves pretty simple. There's a lot of games that are just called primitive because it's called Primitive Studios. So, but Forgotten Adventure is the name of this one. I guess if you want a 99-cent platformer that's probably not super tight platforming, it's not a super Meat Boy type thing. In fact, it seems like, looking at the video, it's a pretty floaty game. And you get coins, and apparently you can buy speed to increase your speed, or buy lives to increase your lives. Like, this is trying to be something like Super Meat Boy. But it's certainly not accomplishing it. Let's just close that tab. Let's see. Game Master has an article, Earth Atlantis for PS4 and Xbox One as a launch trailer. It has a sepia tone aesthetic to it. A lot of brown and just kind of brownish black lines. But you're playing as either a submarine or a fish. It's also shooting, kind of in the bullet hell shooter type experience. Let's do this.
Jade Serpent guide you.
So I'm not a fan of bullet hell shooters, and the game just said, the trailer just said, if you're a fan of bullet hell shooters, you'll love Earth Atlantis. And I'm like, I kind of like the artistic perspective. It's due out June 1st, but for me, no, and it doesn't seem like it's coming to PC or has come to PC. It apparently is already available for the Switch. Let's see. Let's play this. And then play this. See, is this an article really worth mentioning? TechRaptor has an article, Nutaku's dating sim pocket waifu now available for Android. It seems like it's mostly a puzzle game still, just on the cell phone version. What's interesting, I guess, about the idea of having an adult game, which that's all Nutaku sells on your phone, is it opens the 100% possibility that you're going to be in the wrong area and wrong place to be playing a adult game. Ooh, that was an interesting move.
Let's show our guests a good time.
Well, I'm trying to finish up here, so let's move on. We already talked about the new studio called Neon Ghost, so I don't need to talk about that. A company called Disbelief out of Chicago, Illinois is looking for a junior programmer. Disbelief apparently has worked on Gears of War 4, Borderlands, The Handsome Collection, and Perception. So, who knows what they're working on right now. Your Gamer has an article, Overwatch Pro Team Manager reveals brutal 72-hour-a-week training regimen. That's way too many hours, particularly when you're doing something particularly physical, which, while playing video games isn't the most physical activity ever, it does, at least in part, built around the pressing and doing a lot of repetitive actions. And we knew that a lot of the pro gamers are getting repetitive stress injuries. PC Gamer has the best Minecraft mods. It's still very weird for them to be this late in the day talking about Minecraft mods. They've got a Portal mod, something called Millennier, a Fossil and Archaeology Revival mod, Instant Massive Structures, the Lost Cities, Biosphere, the Aether, Optifine. I think Optifine obviously is probably one that should be in there.
The darkest night. Need you to master.
Lost.
You rang.
Twilight Forest is one I've heard. Biomes aplenty. What they're not covering here are some of the major mods. Inventory tweaks, not enough items, and Walia. Like, they're not covering some of the bigger mods that drastically changed Minecraft. So no Sky Factory, no Skyblock, no Forever Stranded. So yeah, that wasn't much of a list, and very, very odd that you'd make that. Here's an odd early access VR mixed reality game. It's called Number Hunt, and it sells for $24.99. It is doing something slightly different in the fact that you are literally shooting and hunting the numbers that are bouncing around and have legs. So kind of an interesting joke of an idea. Unfortunately, you're charging $25 for the joke of the idea, and that is on top of it requiring a VR headset. So that's not something. PC Gamer has an article about Prime Mover. I already looked at Prime Mover, and its graphics are just so unappealing visually that I overlooked it, and I'm going to do that again. It's just not pretty enough for me. Next game we have is a game called Unlight Shizo Chronicle, all squished together. Let's see, is this a Chinese only game? Well, no, it's traditional Chinese and Japanese, but no English. Real-time deck building game. Each turn you purchase cards and fights additional monsters. If you purchase a card, the card gets added to your deck and you win the battle with the monster. You get a shred point. I don't know if this is a good game or not. I guess it kind of doesn't even matter because it's Japanese only. Cards don't look super appealing, but then there's some like customization of your character. It looks like there might be something here that catch people's attention. Let's do this. I just played the one thing I didn't need to play. That's the one weapon you don't want. PC Gamer had a re-review of Hearthstone 2 days ago. They gave it an 86, which I think is probably way too high, considering it's gotten worse and worse, particularly for new players, and that would be who the review is for. And frankly, it's gotten more and more complicated if you're not playing standard. Maybe it's slightly different if you're playing standard. Massive amount of damage. You can't do anything. PC Gamer had 10 reasons that games disappear on Steam. I saw this article and I figured there's probably only 4 of them, but let's go through the whole list because it's kind of funny. Expired music rights, obviously. Fake reviews, probably a little less obvious that you would have fake reviews. Quote-unquote sexual content, I'm not sure too many have actually been permanently kicked off. Like House Party was kicked off and then it had to censor itself and then got back on. So is that disappearing permanently or is that just temporarily disappearing? Seriously. It still didn't help him. Start killing I don't know if there's really been too many other incidences. It's been replaced by a remastered version. That has happened, certainly, like the Dark Souls Prepare to Die edition is going to be released with replaced. Technical problems were took down Batman Arkham Knight, but that was really it. There's scams. Valve removed 173 games from Steam, all from the same single developer. How could you, like, why can't you stop somebody from publishing 173 games on Steam in the first place? The game isn't good. Let's see, Afro Samurai 2 was taken off Steam by its makers. So, yeah. Most of the reasons why these are getting taken off Steam, though, is because the developer took them off Steam. Not because Valve took them off Steam. And I feel like there's a pretty big difference there.
Elements guide me.
The game wasn't finished. Let's see. Under the Ocean is an example of a survival game that was never finished. The funny one is here. The developer threatened to kill Gabe Newell, which got Paranautical Activity taken off in October 24th. And then they ran out of digital copies for the 2006 version of Prey. That is just straight up a lie. You can't run out of digital copies. But some funny reasons on top of some non-funny, very serious reasons. And I'm at the Humble Bundle, and let's see, there's nothing on the Humble Bundle store new. Still, the Humble Monthly is being pushed, and the Hooked on Multiplayer Bundle, Cosplay 2.0 book bundle is still the most interesting thing I see there. And look, we are almost 20 minutes over, even though I broke it up into 4 recordings. I seriously doubt I should be making 5 recordings in a stream. So I'm back to my Twitter now. Battlefield 5 will not have loot boxes, but will have paid cosmetics. Good to know. E3 hype getting talked about. Nicholas, that's Nicalis Incorporated, is giving away a complete set of Nintendo Switch library retail games. Retweet and follow for a chance. Yeah, I'll retweet that. I don't even have a Switch, but why not? Nicholas is The Binding of Isaac, or Cave Story, or they've got like 7 games that they're showing pictures of, so I assume they have 7 games they're giving away. The ancient MMO RuneScape Classic is finally closing. Alright. Scrolling down. Tim Schafer believes he hasn't made his best game yet. Thank goodness for that. Because if he believed he had, then that would be a pretty sad statement. EVGA apparently has an X299 motherboard on sale from the PC Gamer. Don't really care about hardware sales. I will care in about around July if that 1180 manages to come out.
I am Rafa, the supreme archaeologist.
There you go.
Job's done.
This guy is letting me win, maybe. Nicholas is congratulating the new Thundercat show, which frankly I've heard bad things about because the graphics look ridiculous, but who cares, maybe it'll work well. Hey, Dark Souls Remastered is now on Steam. I'll put that in my wish list. We don't need to talk about that. So do I continue scrolling down or do I try one more game? I think I'm not going to play off a Silent Post show today, but I'll just play offline a little bit. Maybe I won't even do that. I'm definitely going to take a break. So, yeah, no Silent Post show. Scrolling down.
Ro versus Lunara.
Let's see. Jackbox Games is giving out a $250 Amazon gift card for free games, which arguably $250 gift card on Amazon would probably purchase you all of the Jackbox games cheaper and leave some money over. Gamasutra has an article, "The future of PlayStation may be portable." Like, I don't see that. I don't see how you do that. I want that Microsoft adaptivity controller to succeed, but on my own selfish note, I kind of would love to see it fail so that there's several of them very cheaply available in a store.
There is little time.
Alright, well that didn't work. There's a game called Wanted Killer in VR on Steam. We'll talk about that Friday. Yeah, if I could buy a bunch of those adaptability controllers for $10 each, that would be very nice. Star Wars The Force Unleashed 2 number 7 aired 3 hours ago on my channel. 15 years ago was Silent Hill 3 was released. There's really nothing nice to say there though, unfortunately, because there's simply no chance of a new Silent Hill game. So that's just kind of sad news. Let's keep on scrolling down. Let's see. Let's see, Sony takes a page from Microsoft by licensing customizable PS4 gamepads. Interesting. There's a report that Wargaming Seattle is shutting down, formerly known as Gas Powered Games. So we'll talk about that on Friday and hopefully have more detail. Let's do this. Destroy an enemy with taunt, or turn the other minions to the house and they cost him 1. Let's do this.
None shall rise.
A 100-player celebrity pro-am tournament for Fortnite will take place during E3. Celebrity in quotation marks, I suppose. I probably don't know who any of them are. Battlefield 5 releases October. We'll get more information about that later. Yeah. Well, actually, WB Games retweeted DC Comics that says Chaos is coming. So this is probably... This is clearly a Lego product. Lego Villains, but apparently there might be a Lego Villains comic book too. On top of a Lego Villains video game. 4 hours ago, Assassin's Creed Revelations #1 aired on my channel. So, man, it took me forever to play Assassin's Creed Revelations to the end. So that series is going to go for quite a while. Almost certainly. Probably on the weekends too. That was about the time when I started saying, look, I've got to put these 30-minute episodes on the weekends if I'm going to make them shorter. And the only reason I'm even making 30-minute episodes is because one fan asked for it. So if two fans told me they wanted hour-long episodes, I'd go back to that, which feels more comfortable to me.
Now how about...
Let's see, here's a game called Die Pig Die on Steam. We'll talk about that. Let's see, weekly jobs roundup from Gamasutra. Let's see. Battlefield 5 will have no premium pass. All maps will be free. It's good to know. All these little details.
Time goes short.
Scrolling down. Double GTA money and reputation on GTA Online for Memorial Day. If that's what you want to spend your Memorial Day on. Alright, let's play this. And play this. I seriously do not want to play that, so let's play this. Now the animation on this is still broken.
I'm invincible.
Join me.
Still on, scrolling down. Come on. Let's see, I specifically said I wanted to start 10 minutes before 45 minutes. So 30 minutes into what has now been an hour and 15 minutes of playing Hearthstone, I wanted to start looking at the Twitter account and scrolling down, and I'm not making that progress. I did not get that done. As far as Hearthstone progress, yeah, I'll probably play a little bit offline to make sure I get the 3 victories. But that's all on the European account, but that's kind of all I need to do. We save everything else for Friday. 5 hours ago, Star Wars: The Clone Wars Republic Heroes #10 aired on my channel. That definitely is a game I think people should watch, because I bet you haven't played it. And it's not really a good enough game to want to play yourself, but it's an interesting story, at least in part. See, I think I may have hit the point on my Twitter where I've seen everything. Right. And I definitely curated the games I was covering today, and it's still too much. I don't really know what to do to fix that, though. Like, how can I curate even more without taking several extra hours or working a day earlier to go through all the games? And even if I did work a day earlier to go through all the games, it wouldn't really work. Inherently, I guess what I need to do is find something that is like Hearthstone, but is more enjoyable and takes even longer to play. And who knows what that would be. Oh, there is a retweet from Bethesda retweeting Rage, saying in Rage 2 you are a character named Walker. You're not playing the character from the first game, Nicholas Rain. and they say, so what happened to that guy? We don't know. We're honestly asking. So they're pretty much forgetting any story from the first game, and I think in a comedic way that was treated, that makes a great amount of sense, because people had a problem and didn't really like the story of the first game, and particularly the ending of the game. If you want a Nintendo gamepad officially licensed floor mat, it's 50% off today at ThinkGeek. At least as in the United States. I thought about buying one and then putting sensors under each of the points where you would step to actually control a controller. I probably could do that. It would cost a lot more money than probably worth for a gag, but it would be kind of interesting too. Maybe I'll reconsider it. I'm already way too over my budget as far as purchasing stupid swag, though. Particularly since that the summer sale, Steam summer sale, is coming in mid-June, and all the Pinball Arcade games are disappearing June 30th. So there's like $200 already on Pinball Arcade tables alone. Let's see, I'm scrolling down my Twitter feed and I just hit the bottom. There you go. So 4 new tweets. By the time you get to the bottom, it got 4 new tweets. Alright, yep. We're good to go. Apologies for just sitting here for so long. That's going to be it for this stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me even further, gift me a game on Steam or give me a Steam gift card. Either one helps quite a bit. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.